Cool. All right. This is working.
There we go, man. I like it.
It's kind of like what was it back in the day? Were you around for the no, what do you call them? They were the UAVs.
Ravens.
Jesus, the foam ones. Yeah, they had the goggles, which is like old school. They had the goggles and like, yeah, and you're just like, it's working. And
You crash
and
everywhere.
they're like, oh, you crash it. That's what you do. Wasn't there like an issue with those two? Like, didn't they find out that they were it was like hobby pieces, and they're selling them to like they weren't encrypted, and it was like basically hobby pieces. They only cost like $100 to make, and they were selling them for like $15,000.
We had, it's 2010, 11, all of a sudden our battalion was like, we need to be flying these things all day, every day, right? Like you need to be stacking up hours. Mm-hmm. And as a fire support officer, you get all the random jobs. Mm-hmm. So I was in charge of the Raven team.
Yeah.
And it just sucked. Because that thing, like it genuinely crashed 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And when it crashed, it's like, that's out in Taliban territory. Like now we have to put together a legit patrol with dogs and like EOD to go out there and recover this Raven.
Yeah. We were the same way too. We had in Iraq, we didn't really use much in Afghanistan, but Iraq we did, and it crashed. And then like, all right, we got to go retrieve it. And then some elder would come out and be like, hey, I got your shit.
I mean, a solid 10% of our operations were like recovering a Raven that we crashed.
Yeah.
Looking at something that we didn't need to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was annoying. Everything got shut down. They're like, oh, we need to get it back. And it was like, it's the worst piece of kit anyways. All right, Preston Stewart. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, Ethan, appreciate it, man.
I'm pumped. We're here in Nashville. We are, up in a hotel room, ready to rock and roll, and I'm pumped that we got to finally link up. So,
of course, man. I've been looking forward to this, and this is a professional setup. Coming from a guy that I just sit in my office, and I am so nervous about all the setup that I have like a fixed camera and I don't touch it.
Yeah.
Like it's there,
yeah.
The audio, and I don't know what to do with it. So like this is really impressive that you're able to put this together.
Thank you. No, I it's funny because it's like, because I'm a cinematographer, like I can, sometimes people get, they overthink it a little bit. It's like, all right, cool. Like sometimes you just like these two cameras are, Sony's EVE ones, like the setup on each one is maybe $800 a piece, but that's with the lens. It's a 1.8 lens, 35 millimeter. Talking about nerd stuff now, I'm sure that's why the audience tuned in. They're like, Preston Stewart cameras. That's what we're talking about. But anyways, when it comes to the setup type stuff, though, like, I always like look at you and look at Nick, and I'm like, oh, you guys, it's huge
so
shit. I just give me like 10 minutes, and I'll make you look amazing.
We're gonna follow up on that.
Yeah. Even with your small space, like you can do it, But yeah, so it's like that's kind of the nice little skill of like, all right, we can. I didn't bring lights, but we can do whatever. I was telling Amanda when Sean Ryan did the Trump interview back last year, like it's really crappy looking, but it like makes sense, because Sean Ryan's all about, it's like he's sitting down, his studio looks great, and then he does like a hotel room, basically interview with Trump, which no one cares how it looks because you're interviewing Trump, before the 2024 election, so. But it was like,
that's big.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy it happened, but in generalities, yeah, I was telling her, yeah, it kind of looks like crap, like it doesn't look good, but obviously subject matter, it doesn't matter. But anyways, yeah, thanks for coming on.
Of course, man.
We're going to let's dive into the origin story a bit of Preston Stewart. And yeah, man. So where'd you start off, and how did you get into the military, and what was that route like?
Yeah, this is actually pretty good timing. It wasn't planned this way, but actually, I guess like most people around our age, I imagine 9/11 was kind of the defining event. I was a sophomore in high school. Okay, that happened, and it just that kind of triggered. That's about the decision time, I think, for a lot of people. That's 15, 16, 17 years old, and that was a big enough event for me to want to pursue the military. Both of my grandparents were in. Grandfather was in the Air Force on my dad's side. My mom's side, he was in the Army. And so I kind of grew up with it a little bit, like the normal kids playing Army kind of stuff. But yeah, 9/11, man, really directed me to want to do something. I wanted to just go into the military. My parents said, you got to go to college. So we found this middle ground at West Point. And I was fortunate you do both at the same time. And I was fortunate, really, really, really fortunate.
Like in the middle grounds of West Point.
So if I would have just said military at that point, my parents would have said no. Because I brought up West Point, and they said no. Yeah, I get it, man. That was, 2003 on or about. On my visit to the academy, we were rolling tanks into Iraq. So they're like, why? No.
Yeah.
Easy answer. You're not going to do that. And over time kind of warmed down, and they were super supportive, of course, as soon as we made that decision. But so that was it. That was kind of the deciding factor, was 9/11. And then, again, fortunate to be able to attend the military academy. And then from there to 101st, field artillery officer. And that's about where the military career, that's really where the military part began.
What was West Point like? I've noticed you guys, obviously, West Pointers. Marine Corps is Naval Academy, whatever that is. It's I can't remember Annapolis or whatever. I think
just a dump of a place.
I swore we had West Pointers, but maybe I'm completely wrong about that. Maybe they're talking smack about West Pointers, and I thought they said they were from West Point, so I might be wrong because I told that people, I was like, yeah, Marine has West Pointers. They're like, what you talk about? That's the Army, and I'm like, maybe I have false memories. Maybe
technically you can you can cross branch, but it's
typically
like we're talking like 1 or 2 people a year, maybe.
Yeah. So they, but yeah, that's awesome. So how was the experience at West Point? Like, did you want to do infantry? I know you're intel, correct? Or how did that all kind of shape out? Because you're kind of like, don't they like kind of hone you in from like, not day one, but everyone starts to what they're wanting to do. I mean, my buddy Tyler Merritt, CEO of 9 Line Apparel, he's a 160th SOAR guy, and so it's like I think they were piloting in that aspect or where they wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So how does that work?
So fun fact, I delivered Tyler's laundry. He was a senior in my company when I was a freshman, and we had to deliver laundry to those guys, to everybody when you're a freshman. And Tyler was actually, I hadn't spoken to him since he graduated. I didn't really speak to him when he was there.
Dude, he would love to talk. I'm plugging Tyler.
But there's a disconnect there between freshmen and seniors. Yeah. But he was one of the guys where you got to go around all these different rooms. It's part of like this very light hazing kind of stuff, and drop off the laundry. And everybody wanted his room because he was always just super chill. He's like, whatever, dude, just set it down. Whereas other people, you go in there and they'd make you recite some sort of knowledge or put you on the spot or make you feel like a jerk or an idiot. Tyler was always like you wanted his room.
Sure.
But it was good. It was an experience I'd do again. I'd recommend it to anybody. If my daughter wants to go that route when she gets to be the right age, I'd say go for it. It's become, I mean, it's kind of who I am at this point, to be honest. It's that kind of forging of you. It's 4 years, of course. You come out with a bachelor's degree, but you really spend like 4 years there. They call it the 47-month experience because you start in June and you do kind of a modified basic training. It's basic training about 2 months long. It's run by cadets, but implemented by cadets. But then you have an active duty unit that's there overseeing the training. So 10th Mountain, 100, I think when we were there it was 10th Mountain, sent a battalion out, and they kind of oversee the lane. So you've got this weird mix of junior and seniors as cadets that really know nothing about the military still, and they're running a lane with some specialists and PFCs talking about room clearing. But those specialists just got back from like an 18-month tour in Iraq or something. So it's pretty unique experience, but a very different basic training, kind of a condensed basic training. And then you're in the academic year, and you don't do much military during the year. You're in a uniform, military structure, start to finish. All of the classes have like a military slant. So it's normal like geography and chemistry and history, all that stuff. But like the geometry or the geography class, our capstone was like a terrain analysis for the Normandy beaches on D-Day. So like it's just normal geography, but you're going to look at like how to bring tanks ashore back in 1944. So is that kind of like just a little bit over. But then the summers are tied up. You got about 2 weeks off each summer. You're running off doing other training, field training. I got to go to airborne school while I was there. They sent cadets to air assault. They stopped sending people to ranger school. They used to send cadets to ranger, sapper, and seer.
Really?
Yeah. One of my buddies went to seer. Good, awesome dude, Danny Schwartz. And they stopped sending them because if you recycle in one of those, that's your whole summer.
Oh, got it.
So if you make it like halfway through ranger school and then you recycle, you can't recycle because you have to go back to class.
Yeah.
So it's kind of wasting a slot. And with SEER, they stopped sending guys, at least for a period of time, because they came out of that course so beat up. Really? They like couldn't do anything the rest of the summer.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because like SEER, well, granted, the one they offered us was only like a week long. What was your guys'?
I don't know. I want to say it was longer than
Yeah.
I have 2 weeks in my mind, but again,
It might have been 2 weeks. We were like, the ones they were trying to send us to first year school was like, it might have been 2 weeks, but I remember them saying it was like when you get tied up, hog-tied and face down, like that experience was only like, I shouldn't say only 3 or 4 days, but they were like classroom and that. I could have sworn maybe it was 2 weeks or 10.
Hey man, I got you only 3 days of being hunted through the woods. It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fine. I had gotten offered twice, and both times it didn't work out. They pulled a slot the first time, so they gave it to me, and they're like, hey, and then the MEU took it. The second time, they were like, hey, you have it. I joined the ETT team in the regiment out of the battalion, and they were like, well, we can't give it to anybody. It's not like we can give it to someone else in the regiment, so if you want it or not. And I was like, well, no, can't go to SEER in the middle of, like, I'm training for Afghanistan now, so I'm out. So the 2 times I was offered, and I always wanted to do it because it was kind of
unique,
like a
man.
Marine sniper thing. Like, we're supposed to be qualified, but they don't. But it's also very cool of, like, if you have it, it's like one more school to check off. Like, oh, I went to SEER school. It's like a badge of honor.
Of course. I never really had the opportunity to go. I'm an artillery guy, conventional military. It was never really in the cards. Technically, I guess I could have competed for it at West Point. I would not have gotten it. But just based off class rank, like I wasn't going to get it in retrospect. But I agree. It would have been cool to do.
So like when you're going through West Point then, I mean, is your day structured? You guys have to get up at 6 a.m., PT, go to class. What's your nights like? Do you guys like, does it get a little bit better? Because like in my head, I'm like, boot camp sucked for 3 months.
Yeah.
But you're constantly like, talk about West Point, like they can't do that for 4 years straight. So clearly there's breaks. Like you said, like classes, and you're not getting yelled at by DIs in the classroom. It's more of like, oh yeah, we're going to college class now. And what, like, so what's that like day to day then? So how was your, is it like nightmarish? Is it the first year sucks and then you kind of like get in a groove, or what's that like?
I wouldn't call it nightmarish. It was more, it was a grind. Like every day was a grind, like a long road march, and you could hardly see the end. Like, because there was every day until that very last final you take your senior year, you're at risk of not graduating. It's tough, and they push it. So every semester you're taking about 20 hours of classes, so it's a full load. Every day you get up, you've got to clean your room, shave, shower, have the uniform on, and then have the room ready for inspection throughout the day before you go out to breakfast formation at like 6:45. Then you march in together. Everybody has breakfast at the same time. Then you go off to classes. Then we all have lunch together at the same time. More classes, and then you're either doing parade prep, playing sports, or military training in the afternoon. That wraps up around 5 or 6. Dinner, and then it's studying. And the professors made a point of kind of my biggest takeaway from West Point is they overload you. There's more every day to do than you have time, and it's not close. So most of the instructors would try to give you 1 to 2 hours of homework. Well, if you're taking 7 hours of classes in a day, like you don't have 14 hours before the next class day starts. You don't have 7 hours of time unless you're going to sleep at 3 or 4 in the morning. So from right away, you had to learn how to prioritize certain things and figure out, like, where do I need to put my energy and not? What do I have time to do and not? What do I need to work with somebody on, and all of that stuff? It got, I don't want to say easier. I'm not very smart, so the academic part was hard for me start to finish. That was a real challenge for me, but you start to get more privileges as the years go on. So your freshman year, you can't talk outside. You have to square all the corners inside. It kind of sucks, to be honest. Like, I got to leave for Labor Day, and then Thanksgiving and Christmas, Martin Luther King, President's Day, and spring break. So we had 6 opportunities to leave post, essentially freshman year. The rest of that, you're there. Sophomore year, you get a couple more weekends you can take off. Junior year, a couple more, and you can bring a car out for the back half of junior year. And then senior year, technically, you could leave every weekend. But it's the same thing, where like you have so much to do that you can't just go on vacation every weekend. So it was tough, but some of my best friends are from that. I mean, it genuinely is the group of close friends I have now. You've got the guys that you're in combat with, you're deployed with, and like that is different than like any other group. A right up against that are the guys that I went to West Point with.
Nice.
A small core group, just because we, for 4 years, kind of had to lean on each other. It was not life or death. But at that time, when you're 18, 19, 20, That was hands down the hardest thing I'd done, and it wasn't close. It was gone.
Yeah. I always thought about that too, because like boot camp, you get for the Marine Corps experience, like it's intense for 3 months, and then things get a little better. Obviously, you go to infantry school, then you get to the unit and what. But I remember hearing about West Point. It's like they kind of treat you like a boot for the first like year or two, and it's like, and then you, granted, but you are an officer, so there's like a much brighter light at the end of the tunnel than becoming like enlisted. You know what I mean? Like kind of like going, all right, got to the unit, life is still gonna suck for a long time. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, but like I imagine that, like I said, you're because being a college kid, you're like, I'm sure you're looking at your friends. They're like, what are you talking about? We're going out all the time. I remember my ex-girlfriend. I came in like a visitor from boot camp. It was her everyone's first semesters. And I'm like, what's your schedule like? She's like, oh, I got classes on Mondays, Wednesday, and like Friday. And I'm like, so you need to know? It's like, so what's your class schedule like on? She's like, oh, I go to class for like 2-3 hours on Monday and maybe another. And then like Wednesday, oh, it's a hard day. I go to class for 5 hours. So I have 2 classes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Friday is like 2 classes. I'm like, are you kidding? Seriously? That's it? Like, that's all you do? You have all this free time? And it was just like, kind of blew me away on the college experience side,
I don't think I would have done well in that for what it's worth. I think I needed more structure.
Yeah.
Just in retrospect. But something else they do that I always kind of bypass is, you mentioned that like everybody there is becoming an officer. That's the route they're taking. So a lot of this stuff they overload on you is, you asked about PT. There's no organized PT.
Oh, really?
Partially because the campus isn't that big. It's not very conducive to like Fort Bragg or Fort Benning or anything where like you can just shut down whole sections. And usually it's there's just not a good way to do it in the morning. So every so often, maybe a couple times a semester, there'd be something organized, but essentially it was on you.
Oh, really? Okay.
You're going to do a fitness test every semester, be in shape.
Yeah.
So, and the way they kind of wrote that off was, you're responsible for your own fitness. Mm-hmm. It worked for most people, I would say. But so then on top of all that chaos that is your day-to-day, you got to get to the gym, got to find times to run, got to find times to do that stuff. But one of the things they did that was really kind of, in retrospect, kind of guiding you towards things you would do as an officer, is you had to have a ton of stuff memorized, especially your freshman year. Mm-hmm. So at any given point, you had to know the next 3 meals. They're being served in the chow hall. So if we were right now, a senior stopped me on the street out at West Point, I would have to know breakfast and lunch tomorrow, and then breakfast the day after. Mm-hmm. So every morning before you go out to first formation, you got to look over the menu for the week and memorize the next 3 meals in case anybody asks you. You had to, all sorts of different like just phrases and quotes and things like that, numbers, the silly stuff that in basic training too, right? Like rate of fire, all that nonsense. But also the days to big events. Mm-hmm. So at any given point throughout the year as a freshman, you can get stopped and asked the days until things like Army-Navy game, days until Christmas break, days until spring break, days until graduation. Every one of those changes every single day. Mm-hmm. And you had to know those every day for the entire year. And there's a little bit of that. You can see how that translates to some aspects in the military where it's like, you got 30 seconds. Here's the information. You got 30 seconds to absorb this and then go. And you've got to be able to recall this quickly under stress, because you're going to feel like an idiot if you don't get it right.
Well, it's good. I mean, it's good. I dig it. I understand why. It's just, in my head, it's like, man, 4 years of that. I mean, granted, I'm sure the first years of, second year, it gets you said, it gets a little easier.
They don't ask that stuff of sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That is seniors and juniors asking the freshmen.
Yeah.
But it's, again, it's like, it sucked a bit at the time. You're not getting shot at, which was another major thing that a lot of the professors were military, and a lot of them at that time, so I was there 05 to 09, dude, they're all come back from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Like, they all had combat tours, and that was pretty regular. Is anytime you complained about something or you pushed back, they were very quick to say, at least you're not getting shot at.
Yeah.
And that'll put you in that'll shut you up. Yeah. Like, all right, that's, by comparison.
So were they officers then? Like, your professors, were they and other officers as well then that had just served, or they're like...
Still active.
What's that?
Still active duty.
Still active duty, okay.
Assignment, yeah.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay.
So the majority, I would say, I'll mess this up, but probably 85% are active duty military.
Oh, okay.
And then the other 15% are essentially DA civilians.
Oh, okay.
Because West Point is falling under the Department of the Army.
Yeah.
So the officers that they had there they sent them to a 1 year of grad school at Columbia. They would move to West Point in New York with their families. They would commute down to Columbia to get a master's in geography, chemistry, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then their assignment would be 3 years at West Point teaching.
Oh, okay.
So they weren't, but they were like, dude, they're infantry officers and armor officers and field artillerymen. And so they would step out of the active force. SF guys, they step out of the active force, do this for 3 years, and then go back.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was really cool to be able to have, my physics teacher was an armor officer that drove to Baghdad.
Yeah.
That's cool because they can share all sorts of random stories and kind of tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Yeah.
How would they be then a physics teacher then? So then did they get their own training? Exactly, because typically, like I said, physics professors go through a whole other pipeline in the civilian sector. So then did these guys actually have physics degrees I imagine they did, but where did they find the time, or is that something that they had prior to enlisting, or at West, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then were there majors that you guys majored in, specifically, you could major in physics, so even though you say you want to do something in the Army, you actually might be getting a degree in some crazy other field.
Yeah, so the program to get somebody, say you or I were active duty and we're getting ready to head out there, there's some degree you get to choose, but also they kind of tell you, and maybe you're going to be a political science instructor and I'm going to be history. You would move out there, you'd PCS, do a full-on military move coming from Fort Bragg or whatever it is. You're there. Your family would be stationed at West Point, so your kids could start going to school and wife could find a job or get settled in. You would then commute down to Columbia in New York City for a year and get a master's degree paid for by the Army in whatever that thing is they're going to have you teach. Then you would come back the next year and you would begin teaching. Oh. Now, the way they were able to do that is a big portion of it is they have you kind of teach yourself. So the instructors, by and large, were just kind of guiding discussion after you were supposed to read all this stuff and teach yourself calculus, which I could never do.
Calculus is terrible. Yeah, I did in high school.
Cross board.
I did pre-calc and calculus. I hated it. It was the worst decision ever.
So it wasn't the same as having a professor that'd been doing it for 20 years. That said, the civilians that were there were kind of what you would expect out of normal professors. This was their profession. It's what they'd been doing. They had an undergraduate, graduate, maybe PhD in history, and now this is where they taught. In terms of majors, yep, you can choose. I was an international relations major. The majors are totally separate from anything Army, and it has nothing to do with what you end up doing in the Army, for the most part. A lot of engineering options, probably 40 options total, handful of different languages, math, science, history, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I've never dove with somebody deep into what is West Point offer.
It's unique. A lot of the stuff is kind of,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then what was kind of your favorite experience then at West Point? That was kind of man, the one thing that stuck out in 4 years.
Favorite experience?
Or memorable, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it was crappy, but you remember it?
Gosh, I don't know. There's one stands out. Graduation is up there because it's just genuinely until the moment you walk across stage, I didn't know it was going to happen. So this is great. But that's also a complete blur. Probably just, honestly, man, it's very similar to life in the military. Where there wasn't a thing. It was just sitting in the barracks shooting the shit with some guys on a Saturday night because we couldn't go out, and playing Call of Duty Zombies or something until 2 o'clock in the morning, and my roommate shrieking like a little girl because the zombie showed up on the screen like it always does. And then he, now he's an infantry officer doing badass things. But at that moment, little baby, just that kind of stuff. Just being around each other all the time, and I think it's probably what stands out.
Yeah. I was just saying, bring up Nazi zombies. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
we did
one. Yeah.
It was we played that in Afghanistan. World at War came out, and I remember we had. It was before we figured out we had to buy the converter from 220 to 120. So everyone's blowing the Xbox. A little power bank or whatever. So we had to always scrounge for another one. But we would play Nazi zombies the very first level, and it was and then by the end of the deployment, a year had gone by. So then they started coming out with more maps. And so I was getting out of the Marine Corps. That's kind of a core memory for me.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Nazi zombies with my boys. And especially after we'd gotten back from Afghanistan, it was dude, we just got drunk and just played that all the time. But that's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty funny. No, yeah. So then, did you, you said you're an artillery officer. Is that what you wanted to go in as, or how did you end up going in that direction?
So West Point's, I think, cool, and this says you kind of get to choose your branch. Branch as in, like, what you do inside of the Army, not Marines, Navy, Air Force. Excuse me. So you choose that about this time of your senior year. So in the fall of senior year, you make that selection. They changed the process up a little bit, but essentially I guess I should just explain when I was there, you rank order every one of the branches, and they go down class rank. And if you're number one, then you get your number one pick. And eventually, like, there's only so many aviation slots. There might be 30. So at some point, there's no more aviation slots. And if that's your number one, too bad. What's your number two? And they go down.
Do they ever, like, the guys come in that were older than 18 that were like, I have my pilot's license, I want to be 160th? You know what I mean? Like, that's the only specific I could think of, where it's like, yeah, I got my pilot's license through high school. I'm a rotary wing, and I'm like 20 years old. Do they have any of those, or is it just like...
Not really.
Yeah, okay, here's a preference. He wants to be 160th. He has his license. You know what I mean? Like, a little bit leaning towards that, if that makes sense.
They changed it a little bit sense, but in that example, like, nobody would be able to maintain their license while at West Point.
Okay, that's true. Yeah.
So, like, by the time... And what I noticed was we did have... My first roommate was a tanker, 3rd ID, Thunder Run to Baghdad. It's like, that was my first guy. Yeah, right? Okay, like, Ron Brash, awesome dude. And so he had all this straight combat experience. And then we're talking about how to fold sheets on a bed at West Point. And a lot of those guys did something different. I can't think of any. I think maybe one that was like infantry when they were enlisted and then chose infantry as their branch. The vast majority went off and did something different. But they changed the system up a little bit these last few years where there's an interview process with branch. So rather than just saying, I want to do this thing, you actually sit down with somebody and they talk to you and you find out, like, is this going to be a fit or no? And so something like that, hey, I was enlisted, I came up in aviation units, my parents are aviators, I love flying, like, that would actually now probably play more into it than it did when I was there.
Yeah, because I was wondering that. It's like, guys are still coming in that obviously aren't just out of 18 years old, like you said here, I was curious if that would ever, because I would be that way, be like, yeah, man, like, I have my license, I'm 20 years old, because after years of working with drones, we worked with a aviation, like a runway or whatever, like company, I guess you would say. It was like where you learn how to fly. And I was like, oh, that doesn't take much at all to learn how to fly. So if you're like, well, I got my license within a year. I had buddies that had their fixed wing. Their dad was a pilot. So they just they had their advanced fixed wing before they even graduated his school. And he just got paying for it. He was like, oh, it's going to make, he's like, I don't care if you like it or not. Just keep going. His brother ended up becoming a pilot. He didn't, but he would like, his dad would force him. So that he was always like, hey, you want to come ride with me in an airplane? You know what I mean? This is after the Marine Corps days, but even then his dad was still doing it, but they had an advanced license. So I was kind of curious about that. I mean, that's the only one I could think of, but you roll in, you're like, yeah, dude, I want to drop Delta dudes off on target. And I have rotary wing, hours. So I feel, you might not be able to maintain, but I feel like in our era, that might have been a thing, but if not, it's not.
Well, an interesting thing there too is what people are choosing as their branch. So I wanted to be infantry real bad until I went through a couple of the summer trainings, which is mostly infantry focused because that's the easiest thing to do. And it's, again, kind of an extension of basic training where that's mostly what you're doing is setting up patrol bases and going on ruck marches and slapping out in the woods.
Life sucks.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember at one point, I think I was talking to my parents and I said, when branch comes around, I need you to tell me. They're like, don't you remember saying that this sucks? Because you make the decision during the school year.
Yeah.
And it's enough time to be like, I don't know, maybe that was kind of cool. That was no, man, you hated it.
You hate it. It's terrible. Yeah. Yeah. That was when I got back to the Guard years later. They we were digging snow trenches. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I would have gone to division headquarters or whatever, a few months later. I'm like, I'm not going back to the line. I'll do anything else but go back to the line. I did my time, So it's especially by that point. But it's one of those funny things. Just dude, that sucks. Why would you
volunteer to do that?
Why would you volunteer to do that? I think, obviously, if you want to be infantry, guys that are hardcore, all the guys, it's like guys that join to become infantry, like, oh, I want to do it. I was like, I scored high enough, which doesn't say much, but I could choose whatever MOS or job within the Marine Corps infantry. So we have like 5 or 6. It was like tow gunner, mortar, 0311, which is the infantryman, ground pounder through and through. Then you had machine gunner, mortars, assaultmen, and then tow gunners. So, and I remember just being like, no, I want to be a ground pounder, but you could hand off your slot to somebody else who didn't score high enough. So obviously didn't really care for scores because they were like, whoever could, Schmuckatelli could take that slot from me if I offered it to. So I scored one in the higher slots, and they were like, hey, you have priority. What do you want? I'm like, I'm going to be an 11. I'm going to go 311. It's like just the most basic, infantry dude. And then somebody came up to me who just clearly did not score high enough for anything. He's like, dude, can I have your slot? I want to be a tow gunner. And I was like, yeah, here you go. And I handed it to him. I hope he did well as a tow gunner, So exactly. So I was like, okay, cool. But it sucks though. We get into the field. I'm like, this blows. The infantry, I was like, the machine gunners get to actually like ride Humvees to the range, shoot the 50s, and then take them back and spend the night in the barracks. Infantry 0311s spent the whole week out in the field, and then you came back for the weekend. Yeah, so the whole time we're out in the field sleeping under, it was like pissing rain in California. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sleeping in a puddle, but it's like the bivy sack actually held though. So you're just like, oh my God, and you like see yourself, you're in a, like a 1 inch, 2 inch puddle, and you're just like,
it could come in, but it couldn't go out.
Yeah. Or it was like, you were like, if you move, you might bring it in, but you're just like, don't move because the water isn't like rushing in, and
very, very comfortable.
Yeah. Or you're like, and you try to like roll over to like not a dry spot because it's raining, just like a spot that's not flooded. But so
well, they for what it's worth, they at West Point, they really did push infantry, at least while I was there. Like there's ranger tasks everywhere.
Yeah, but is there more slots for that?
No, you had to be, when I graduated, you had to be at least in the top 50% of the class to get infantry.
Really?
Yeah.
So that was like more competitive.
It was, and that changed over time. Like I talked to a cadet recently, and infantry was towards the not towards the bottom, but like if you were the lowest ranking, so field artillery was one.
Yeah.
There's a handful of slots, like transportation, field artillery. Some of these, like you could be the lowest ranking, and if you put field artillery as your number 1, you got it. Just because they had so many more slots than anything else. I don't know exactly why that was, but
really,
with infantry, it was the opposite, and now it's kind of, it changes. And this was also like kind of peak GWAT again, like the 05, 09 time frame, and I wonder how that changes when you're not deploying so quickly.
Yeah. Well, and then that makes sense with the infantry guys because there's really, peak GWAT. They want, I don't say, oh, they want the best, but it's kind of like some more slots, but they're in the competitiveness because everyone's joining the infantry. Now I'm sure peacetime is like, F that.
Cyber's like one of the most competitive.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, and like cyber 6, 7, 8 years ago was like a new thing. I remember there's a guy in my guard unit who was like IT, and he was thinking about staying in the guard because Minnesota was firing up a cyber team.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not that into computer. I'm into computers, but not that much where I'm like, oh, yeah. But yeah, it's like, oh, dude, like that's becoming a much bigger thing. But like you said, now I could see that where you need some top brass to get, or people to understand, because that's not just like what it used to be in our era where it's like, oh yeah, there's some computer nerds or oh yeah, whatever, track the firewall. Now it's like China is hacking into our systems. You have to counter Russia, and then you have social media. You have to get through bots. What's the propaganda? Now it's like, spreading, as obviously OSINT, even with social media, it's like what is real, what's not.
Yeah.
What is Russia pushing? What is China pushing? What is the U.S. pushing? What is the Israelis pushing? Because you can just pay, and it's like, or you have bot farms, and and you're really pushing propaganda one way or another, or influence one way or another.
It's wild.
And it influences people. I think you see that shift way more now. You're starting to see that being, I don't want to say more effective, but pretty effective.
I think it's very, very effective.
Yeah. Opposed to like early years when you were like, what's going on with this, whatever. But now things move so quickly that you're, and also blackouts, or I should say blackouts, but even like, Russia tampering in on, they're obviously sending, propaganda in one way or another. Ukraine is doing it and they're looking for attention from the U.S. population.
Yeah.
Because you saw that in the 2024 election, where it's like you have, even with the conservative Republicans, there's a shift in the movement to be non-interventionist, not helping Ukrainians, just because people are like, we gave too much money up already. So you're seeing that, opposed to early years like us. It's like, oh yeah, let's save everyone, or like, let's get involved in every single proxy war. Like, so you're seeing that, where I'm sure Ukraine wants us to be like, you need to be involved. And Russia's like, hey, let's throw some propaganda towards, to influence not to have the U.S. intervene, or to have a isolationist mindset. So in China, I'm sure, obviously they're doing their thing too. So clearly cyber's it's nasty. It's getting buck wild. They're like the new cool kids on the block.
They might be, yeah, seriously.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then you got artillery. Were you excited for that? Were you pumped?
Number one choice.
Number one
was
choice.
my number one choice.
Okay, you got it. Okay.
I wanted to be a fire support officer.
Oh, okay.
That was the job. They have branch chiefs out there, so they have they're recruiting for their branch to tell you why you should do that thing. And I thought the branch chief I liked what he had to say. He explained being a fire support officer, and I was like, that job sounds badass.
Yeah.
And he had been a fire support officer for 25th ID in Afghanistan. So he would just tell stories about sitting on a hilltop calling in artillery mortar strikes to support the infantry. He's like, you're just calling in airstrikes left and right, and then when the aircraft peel off station, I start calling in, howitzers and 155s, and it's like, yes. Are you kidding me? This sounds awesome. And describing the nuances of how you had to go about doing it, which is something I really liked with the job, where it's not just there's a grid, call up a grid, but what's available, where's it firing from, what are the conditions, what are the effects on target, all of that stuff. It just sounded like a really interesting job. And then I was lucky enough that my very first job in the Army was as a fire support officer.
Yeah. So how fast did you go then from West Point graduation to your unit into first point?
So graduated in May, end of May, went out to Fort Sill then in July for kind of the basic officer course for artillery, and left there in April. So it's a pretty long course out there. Okay. Yeah. And I got to Fort Campbell then. I was 2nd Brigade, 101st Airborne. Got to Fort Campbell in April, and then we deployed. They were at a training facility, and then we deployed the beginning of June. So by the time I got there, we were essentially loading up Connexes. I drew my gear, packed it in the Connex to go to Afghanistan.
That's awesome.
You know what?
Yeah.
It was, man.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the way I would have. In retrospect, I did not very much care for garrison life. The reason I joined the military was because of events in Afghanistan. So to show up and go straight out the door that, but not show up late. That would have been hard, I think, to show up and your unit's already been there for even a week or two.
Yeah.
But to be able to make that trip overseas with these guys, so many of them for the first time, yeah. 100%.
What year was that? Was that 11?
10.
Oh, it's 10. Okay, so June of 10. Oh, all right. So you're in the thick of it. You're jumping right in. Because I was there from February to May of 10. So.
Okay, so we got there right when you guys were leaving.
Well, I was contractor, so I'd gone back a lot. But yeah,
okay.
So I was there, so it was November of 08 to September of 09, and then made my way back as contractor.
Where were you contracting?
Bagram. So Bagram was my home base. Our other guy was out of Kandahar. I took RC Central, RC East to field metal detectors. So I fob hopped all over the place for 2.5 months. But 2010, though, that was a buck wild year.
And that's the metal detector year. Yeah, my God. That was
Valen? Yeah, I feel now it might not have been me. Where were you out of?
Kandahar.
Okay, so you might have ran into Zakim, Rafe Zakim, or someone else. He was, now granted, that was, you guys got there in June. We'd come back, but he stayed with the company for a little while. So I think he stayed for a little bit longer. He was like, "You want to stay more?" I was like, "No." No, dude. I got my money. I got my 20,000 and the bank account, 25 grand or something. Something that later on I was like, yeah, this is as much as I thought it was going to be. But it was actually good. I mean, it's still a lot of money.
Yeah.
I was like, I just need decompression money. And
dude, there are people that did that for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years of just over for 11 months, back for one as contractors. They borderline lived in Afghanistan.
Oh yeah, I knew a few. I ran into them all the time. I was like, because it wasn't the high speed whips protection. It was like the admin stuff.
Yeah.
It was the logistics, And they were just like, it was kind of crazy. I was like, oh man, like I don't see this side of the war. And it was like, it was just, everyone's a contractor though. Like your chefs, your the guys running the trash, or it's Afghans, but it's a company's paying a dude $120,000 a year
to manage it,
them, probably more, and so they're making bank, like, and these guys, not to downtrodden anybody, but it's like, these weren't like people that were like, oh my God, like you were advanced combat vets and blah, blah. I mean, like, again, nothing wrong with that, but it's like, they see an opportunity to make $120,000 a year tax free. They're going to take it. And why are you going to go home? Like, what's left for you back home?
Yeah. So like, on that note, we were at based out of Hazing in Kandahar. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was the first casualties, but it was definitely the first like mass casualty event we had was contractors.
Really?
Yeah. So we used to come under pretty regular mortar attack, and we had those concrete slab bunkers.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And they were standing inside of the bunker just towards one of the ends, because both ends would be open, mm-hmm. right? And there'd be like a gap and then another T-wall.
Yeah, it would be like the, yep.
Yeah. So they were standing near one of those openings, and a mortar round came and hit just in that little gap right there. And I don't know if it was 3, 4, or 5 contractors died.
Yeah.
They did what they were supposed to do. They were helping set up the Americans, mm-hmm. Helping set up some things at this base, and they went to the bunker when the alert went out. And that, I mean, it's the kind of like, okay, they weren't aiming there, they missed, mm-hmm. to be like, but you couldn't hit at that angle and watch that shrapnel spray in. You could fire that a million times, you wouldn't get that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. We got hit in Bagram. We got hit. Fob Shank. How was that? There's a few fobs I went to that was getting hit with indirect fire. And there's one, I think it was Ghazni. They dropped the balloon, and like and I'd never seen it. I'd heard about them, but they dropped the balloon, and then immediately like stuff came in. It hit one of the transient barracks, because contractors stay in transient barracks a lot. One of them hit, and no one was in it, but it started on fire, and it shot shrapnel like all over contractors. Like like, because you're there for like a few weeks, or depending on what your job was. Like I was there for like 4 or 5 days, so I'd be in a transient barracks with like no one there, and it was nuts. I wouldn't do anything all day. I'd just sit there, and I would just be like, I was running out of shows to watch. This is like the days you had the DVD it up, so you'd always be going back and forth. Or like and internet wasn't real good, but it was decent. Anyways, but yeah, it was it's still dangerous. I mean, guys were getting killed, like contractors and stuff like that. So your first deployment, then you guys got to Kandahar in June of 2010. What was that experience like? How was it as an officer? I only speak for enlisted, but you're like, let's get some. Like, how was it as an officer when you guys kind of get there? What was the organization like? What was your mission while you're there?
So this was Zari District, Kandahar Province. It was pretty kinetic for 2010. Mm-hmm. Iraq had changed a lot by that point. Even portions of Afghanistan had changed a fair amount. But in Kandahar, there was a good chunk down there. I mean, the Marines led the push in Marja just before we got there. So that was kind of this flow. So the Marines out west, the next big operation was in Kandahar, and that was where we were going. So we knew that going in, that essentially we were this surge force to try to take back some territory from the Taliban that they had never ceded since 2001. The Canadians pushed through there during Operation Medusa in 2007. The Russians even kind of avoided this area. It was just nasty. It was a nasty, nasty area to fight. And the Russians just said, screw it, we're going to build a road 40 kilometers that way, and we're just going to, or 20 kilometers that way, and we're just going to stay out. So we knew what we were getting into. I remember kind of, to put in perspective, my commander had Tim Price, who's now getting ready to become a brigade commander, and he had done one of those 15 or 18-month tours in Iraq as a platoon leader with a striker unit. And I remember we were getting ready for the deployment, and he said, the counterinsurgency, we're trying to like help stand up civilian resources and that. He goes, but sometimes you've just got to kill some bad people before you can do that. And it was just like, oh, that's what, because at this time, 09, 10, you're learning so much about like standing up sewer lines and how to distribute voting materials. Mm-hmm. And there was so much focus on coin, and he kind of put it kind of leveled like, there's no coin to be had yet, guys. It's all bad guys. Mm-hmm. Like, and the Taliban had done that. They had cleared out this area south of the road and to contest the highway, and there were no civilians there for a big chunk of it, because it was just IEDs and booby traps and machine gun firing points. So we kind of knew what we were getting into in that regard, but it's interesting as an officer. I'm just speaking for myself. Like, it's nervous shit.
Yeah.
Mostly nervous, overwhelmingly nervous that I'm going to do something stupid and look like I don't belong, or look like I don't deserve to be with these guys. That outweighed the fear, like start to finish, and it's not close.
I imagine that's like for officers. I always feels that like I was a boot, so I'm like, I'm trying to not be a worthless piece of shit, like to the squad. But like, it is kind of like, but they also know that I'm a 19-year-old, that it's like I have to, you got to grow up real fast. But
yeah,
and we do, obviously, once you cut your teeth, But I imagine it's always, we always look at officers like, what are you gonna, you know what I mean? Like, you're the officer, and it's like, there's always that weird give and take, because look, I got back from my second deployment and they're giving me some dude that was like, oh, well, we did at VMI or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm not even legal.
Seasoned vet.
It's like getting guys that are just like, I just started drinking. I was 21. I was like 2 combat deployments, plus like I'm a scout sniper, plus I'm a team leader. You know what I mean? Like, mission planning, like I run circles around you for mission planning. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just like, what's a good idea? Like, and it's always that that friction. And it's an officer, so you're like, yes, sir. And you have to like, in the Marine Corps, at least in my time, I had talked to my buddy John, who's the CEO of Vet TV. We were talking about this. I know Army's a bit different. I don't know if this was your experience, or maybe it's an infantry thing. But like, he's like, yeah, he goes, we would ground wrestle or fight the enlisted. Like, it's like a hazing ritual for Army officers. Apparently, this is infantry officers. This is what I've seen and heard, that the butter bars get roughed up and they do something to them in the platoons. I remember one of my buddies who was Army infantry, he's like, yeah, you guys didn't do that. I was like, you kidding me? I was like, you talk back to an officer as a salty sergeant, dude, they will hem you up. Like, maybe the butter bars, you're going to have a little bit of leeway, but like the actual first lieutenant or second lieutenant or whatever that is, so, silver. Yeah, second, that's first.
Yeah, they do it back. We do
it backwards. I was thinking, I was like first lieutenant. And yeah, it's like, dude, they'll, you know what I mean? Like, it's still that, like, oh, I'm an officer. Like, right, I've never heard of that. But my buddy John was like, oh no, I would ground wrestle the guys and they would just take everything out. I'm like, granted, this was like the 2012, 13 era, 14. I was like, maybe you guys did that after the deploy. I don't know. But I was like, dude, you put a hands on an officer and it's not going to end well for you. Or, this whole like ground fighting thing. So I don't know, did you run into that? Because Army infantry guys have told me that, like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. Like, all the time.
To add to the nervousness is I was an artillery officer, but I was a fire support officer. That means that I was embedded with an infantry unit.
Oh, okay.
So I was surrounded by infantrymen.
Yeah.
I was the lone artillery officer.
Mm-hmm. So even more intimidated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like one of the only officers without a Ranger tab. All these guys, and they've done it, and so it was extra nerve-wracking. Of like, not only am I not good enough to be here, but I'm the You
don't want to end up like that officer in platoon. You ever that scene? He goes, you kill a lot of good men with your fucked up fire mission.
Yeah, right. Don't want to do that.
It was like their platoon commander.
But it was good. In talking to people after, of like cadets or junior officers, and talking about what to do, something I always try to get across is like, you don't know everything. Everybody else knows you don't know everything. So do not pretend to know everything. Like, you don't have to pretend to be the subject matter expert. Nobody thinks you are.
Yeah.
So like, when you do, like, pretending that is bad. Mm-hmm. But if you genuinely like, I don't know because I just got here, it's like, yes, that's what they're expecting. And I think that's where a lot of new officers struggle, is trying to, because they're the officer, right? They're the one in charge. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where they get out over their skis a little bit, but it doesn't have to be that hard. Like, you just, like, I don't know, guys. You've been doing this, E6, staff sergeant, or platoon sergeant, or first sergeant. Like, you've been doing this since I was 12 years old. So, like, can I just listen to what you have to say, or how would you do this? Or am I missing something here? Like, that.
Yeah.
Humility, I guess, maybe.
Yeah. I was just saying, yeah. And like I said, our guys were a bit different. Like, they were always trying to, I think I have a really good idea. Like, that's the ones I've always ran into. And you're like, whoa, man, pump the brakes.
But at the same time, like, that was Dog Company. I've got my shirt on. Dog Company, 2502 Infantry. And it was some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And it was the best people I ever served with. And and they were awesome. So like maybe it would have been different if I had people trying to like haze me and make me feel like shit, but I didn't. I had a bunch of NCOs that were like, they wanted me to do well, because if I did well, then they did well, and we all did well, and like it was just good people. So there wasn't competition, there wasn't like backstabbing. It was just awesome folks from the brand new. Look, I had 3 soldiers in my section when I went over. So fisters, what we called them.
Yeah.
Fire support team, right?
Oh yeah. I picked up in the National Guard. I picked up a lot of like all that. I was at the battle NCO.
Okay.
So I started, my last, well, I shouldn't say last, it was like probably 5-6 years, but like I just stayed there and picked up rank and whatever. But yeah, I started learning like the fisters and learning all the, all the all that stuff. Random stuff. Yeah.
But we had, the first people I was responsible for was 3 fisters. I had Sergeant Smith, who this was, I think, his 4th or 5th deployment, which by 2010 is kind of crazy. So he had been back and forth a couple times. He was my NCO, like the fire support NCO. I was the fire support officer. And then we had 2 soldiers that showed up after I did. So I got there and started packing out my gear. And these 2 guys came from AIT, like, God, I don't know, man, a couple weeks before we left. And 18 years old, like so young. And I think both of them married too.
Of course they were.
Yeah. James and Kurtz, awesome dudes. Still in touch with, went back and forth with Kurtz not long ago, power of TikTok.
Oh yeah.
I saw a video and he's like, oh my God. And we chatted from, but that was the team when we went over. And I don't know, maybe that helped that we, 3 of the 4 of us were brand new. So
he had to deal with you guys, whether you liked it or not. You're stuck. Yeah. Everyone's boots or everyone's, agreed. Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, that's cool. That's good to know. Also, small teams are way better to work with. Like if you're new, even if like those guys, that's like a dream scenario. The officer's new, we're new. There's only 4 of us total. Like you can't get too mad at us.
Yeah.
And then the NCO is like, whatever, like I'm going to train you. Like I can't haze you. I can't you just got here. I'm on your duty is to make sure that you're good to go and these 2 guys are good to go because you're going to start fucking shit up in the next few weeks and you better be good at it. You better.
These guys are calling in lethal fire missions.
Exactly.
Before their buddies are off block leave from AIT.
Exactly, which is cool. I mean, I was one of those fortunate guys. I got to the unit and we deployed. So like within a month and a half. So. It was like I was the lucky ones, kind of the same way. Not like though I'm sure they were even any sooner than I was, but yeah, that's awesome. Those guys are fortunate. I love hearing those stories. They showed up and they're like, we're going like 2 weeks from now. I'm like, oh my God, you always hear those stories and
those 2 ended up as well calling in more fire missions than any other FIST team in the brigade.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah,
it worked out in like the places we were, and we did our best to so. Another thing, like a lot of times, it's cool to call in a fire mission downrange, right? That's really not what I should be doing. It's like a infantry platoon leader kicking the door in while clearing rooms. Like, it's cool. I got it. There's a lot of other things that you should be doing, and there's a lot of other people that are probably better at that than you are. So, I mean, single digits fire missions that I called in. Whereas those guys, every time one came in, it's like, we have another fire mission, you do it. Because I have something else that I have to do here, and it's boring, and it's not nearly as fun, and it's probably just going to be sitting on the radio. So these dudes they fired quite a few artillery mortar rounds.
Yeah. So what was that like when you guys got into your first Tik or your first mission? Like what was that like? Like were you there with them with the radio? Were you guys in vehicles? Were you guys on a hillside? Were you guys what was that first engagement?
So very flat terrain in Kandahar. Thick vegetation to where the Taliban could sneak around pretty easily. We couldn't see them very well at a distance. And the threat was IEDs. So it really limited our ability to maneuver, but there was almost daily direct arms or direct fire contact. And essentially the Taliban method was to fire on you and force you to take cover or try to maneuver, and you'd hit IEDs, was how they generally operated. Our first Tik, I guess, was our first morning on the base. We flew in middle of the night on the Chinook, got off, went to our transient tents, and woke up to gunfire. What does that sound? There's RPGs going off, but that was engaging the towers. We just showed up, so we had no responsibility. It was well under control, so you just kind of oh, this is going to be every day, I guess. a lot of our first engagements, we ended up as base security for this battalion fob. It was a company base turning into a battalion base. We took over our company, dog company, a tow company.
Oh, yeah.
Anti-tank company, took over base security. And so our guys got a lot of trigger time from fixed positions. They were in the towers. I mean, there were days where there were 10 to 15 engagements against the base. And those guys are in a pretty safe environment with, AK fire from 300 meters away, not usually hitting very close to the tower. But we got the practice of like, that's what rounds sound like when they're coming at you, identifying the target, calling in air support, whatever it might be. So our first engagements were all like that. Our first big engagement outside of that, I was not a part of, and it hurt. It sucked.
Got the FOMO. Yeah.
It was weird, man, because we've been doing that base security for a while, and then we had to push south a little ways, and the commander went out, a couple of the platoon leaders went out, but somebody had to maintain the base security. But the CP where we were, look, fire support officer, that's kind of what you end up doing. And I did it, and hell broke loose at this place. I mean, they were dropping bombs for a couple hours. And
Did your fisters go out or did they stay?
I think one of the fisters was out.
Yeah.
It was not supposed to be like this. It was right off the highway. It was not supposed to be like a highly kinetic operation. They just like kicked a hornet's nest. And I remember feeling just sick to my stomach. Like I was where I was supposed to be, but it was like, is this what my deployment's going to be? Is just sitting here while everybody else, I mean, like gunship after gunship going black on ammo and having to like circle back and reload and come back out. And I'm just sitting in this bunker essentially. Like,
yeah. Oh, I know how that feels. I mean, like when our guys are getting a tick, it's just like all you want to do is run into the fight. And they're like, no, you got to hold here. And that's like, I remember my team leader yelling at me when we got our first contact in Iraq. I was like, we got to go. And I was being an absolute dipshit. And he's like, I was like, we got to go. We got to go. And they were like, all right, hold here. And I was like, why are we doing it? I was like that guy. And, I was like, we got to go. And they says like, shut the fuck up. And because I was a private, I was, in the team, like, and I was just like, one, it's like, I want to be there in case something happens to the guys. Like, that's very much that. And you want to get into the fight because it's what I joined to do. I was joined to sit on the sideline. So I know how that feels when you hear it over the radio. You're just like, like I gotta get, but you have to hold this down. It's important to do that. And it just sucks. Or something happens and you're just not there. And it's a shitty feeling.
That's right. I tried to dig in and become valuable. And I think I did before too long, which was, again, I'm the fire support officer. We have fisters. That is their entire job is calling in fire support. They go out with the guys. My job is coordinating for the entire company. The fire support, getting the Reaper on station, switching out the Reaper for the A-10s as they rotate in, moving the Apaches higher so the A-10s can come in, and then having the mortars lined up between, like, that is so much easier done in a CP, and I can just pass the assets to the guys in the fight. And it makes it easier for them. It makes them more lethal. And like, it took a little bit to recognize like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, and there were plenty of times I did, our first big engagement was called Operation Dragon Strike. We were pushing south in Taliban territory and got like a 6-hour firefight. Airstrikes, artillery rounds, all that good stuff. We had a Striker MGS, main gun system. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Striker tanks. We had one of those pulled up right next to it, just blasting away. So got into it plenty of times, but my job was that coordination piece, tactical coordination. So that forward point was a mud hut that we lived in for 7 months, no electricity. But even just being back that little bit allowed me to parse out, like, don't call the Kiowas on station quite yet because we've got 2 F-16s checking in 5 minutes. We're going to start running up the 9 line to the JTACs to get them on target so they can drop as soon as they get here. Whereas the guys on the ground are just like, it doesn't help them to try to coordinate all that stuff. They just want to hear like, you got Kiowas 5 minutes. Here's their call sign. Here's their frequency. They're yours.
Was that something of did that surprise you? Because I think that's what surprised a lot of guys I knew that became officers, like even myself. Like, because you watch all the movies, you think, oh, the officers, lieutenant, they're leading the charge, lead the way, blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of find out later, you're like, oh, you're not saying that you're not in the forward position, because you are, but you're not like that 19-year-old. Like that 19-year-old's going to be the one kicking the door, pulling the trigger, getting into the fight? You know, was that a bit of a? I mean, I imagine West Point probably informed you of that, but did you think it clicked when you're like, oh, like you said, my job is to coordinate, my job is to do this, opposed to, I'm sure when you were not 17, you're like, I'm going to be an officer and I'm going to be captain running through 2 machine guns, you know, 2 saws in each hand, and you're just, you know what I mean? Like, was that good? Because I just talked with buddies that they didn't quite realize that, and I thought about becoming an officer and much later in my career, but I also knew there was still that pull where I was like, oh, I could be a human officer. Well, you got to wait till you're a major, you know, to like, you got to go through this time, and you're more in charge of people than you are running intel assets. So it's like this, like, that's a push-pull, you know, kind of deal. Did you, I mean, like, you know, did you kind of, they said you kind of were figuring that out? Is that something that, like, officers kind of like, oh, okay, I'm not the one leading the charge?
I think it's a constant struggle, and I think for a good officer, it has to be a constant struggle because, and I had really good mentors. That first company commander, Tim Price, again, just did a really good job of showing us, not just telling us, but showing us how that needed to be done. I had a tactical officer, kind of a mentor at West Point, who at one point said, as an officer in a firefight, if you are firing your weapon, something has gone very poorly. And like, that's not the case in Ukraine right now. It's a different fight. But for Iraq and Afghanistan, that's pretty solid advice. Like, if you are in a situation where the officer of the unit needs to be engaging targets with his primary weapon, like, something is not going like it's supposed to have gone at that point. His point being that, like, you have a radio, you are controlling the battlefield, you can call in reinforcements, you can call in air support, you can maneuver elements forward or back. Like, that is what you should be doing. There's plenty of dudes that are probably better shots than us anyways. In Afghanistan, Tim Price did a really good job of showing us how that needed to be done. The challenge that I think is always there is to be blunt, like, you don't want to look like you're a coward. You go out, I'm going to stay back. Because every day guys are getting in fights, and how can you show that I will be there with you unless you're there with them? But you also can't contribute as much being out there. So I'll go back to our strong point as an example. Our company maintained 2 strong points, 1 platoon and then 2 platoons in the headquarters. So they would send out an element, and they would send out an element, and we would be split across 4 different locations, essentially. As fire support officer, I have to manage that entire thing. So that's my job, is that entire grouping. If I go out with a squad on a patrol, I'm only able to really assist that squad. But you have to do that sometimes. You got to go out there and step on the IEDs that don't go off with these guys, and dodge the bullets that they're dodging, and run out of water with them and all that shit, and just sweat through your clothes because it's ridiculously hot in Afghanistan. You have to do that or you lose respect. But at least, again, I can't say enough good things about the people in our unit. I think the soldiers knew that. I don't recall any time ever where there was a look at our officers. Like, the company commander would go out regularly, but he's not going on a patrol that is a squad-sized patrol. That doesn't do anything. Like, maybe occasionally, but get out of here. Like, the squad leader's got it. What is the company commander going to do? He's not controlling squad. So he had a pretty good rule of thumb where he was always going to be where the majority of the company effort was. So we had 3 platoons. If 2 platoons ever went somewhere, he was going to be there. If 1 platoon went out, hit or miss, but he usually would stay back. And I tended to just follow his footsteps in that. So if it was an important enough mission or a big enough mission for the company commander to be on site, I would generally be out with them tied to the commander. But man, that's tough because, you want to do it. In some cases, you can do it. And then also as an officer, you can, so in my example, I could, to my soldiers, say, like, you're not going, I'm going. End of story. I want to go out today.
Do you ever do that?
You stay.
No, I'm going out. Just for fun. He's like, I'm going out.
because they wanted to. And it's this weird dynamic on these deployments, right? Like, they didn't want to sit in the command post. They wanted to go. I can't think of a time where I did anything like that. It was more just coordinating who people went with. When we did a full company mission, you're going to first, I'm going to second, you're going to third, kind of thing. But again, man, it's all easier when you're surrounded by good people.
That's awesome. So what was the like they said you guys did a lot, what was that hardship of that deployment?
IEDs. To be honest, that was such a weird threat. It's all dirt down there. All the roads are dirt. The houses are dirt. Inside the houses are dirt. The trails are dirt. And you just bury IEDs left, right, and center. Our battle space was probably 10 square kilometers for our company. That's really small when you think about it, especially in a rural environment.
I was thinking about it. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah.
You could borderline see the edges. Yep. Yeah. And I don't know. We probably found, destroyed, and recovered 500 to 600 IEDs. Mm-hmm. Like there's thick. There's everywhere. And you couldn't see them. And they got smart and they started making them out of plastic. Mm-hmm. So metal detectors wouldn't pick them up. We had dogs that most of the time got them, but not every time. That was the thing. What was the
most innovative IED that you came across?
Most innovative would have been probably, it wasn't like a specific one, more a tactic. What they would do is they would do something with a limited metal. So the IEDs would be built in plastic jugs, homemade explosive in plastic jugs with with det cord inside of it, all buried somewhere. The det cord would then be moved to an initiator that would be just 2 very small strips of metal. So they were pressure plate IEDs. It was like 90% of what we ran into. And when those 2 pieces of metal touched, it connected the circuit and the IED detonated. They would put that on 2 sides of a water bottle, on the inside of the water bottle. So like that's all the pressure it took would be the water bottle. Other times they put it on boards where like a kid could step on it. You or I right now could step on it. But you throw Kevlar, carry a 240, some ammo and water, it's going to detonate. Like where they like they were able to like make it pressure sensitive in a way.
Yeah.
And then the final aspect was pretty regularly there would be somewhere off to the side a battery detached. And it could be 50, 100 meters away, kind of buried. And they would just, if they wanted to set that up, you got an IED on the entrance here, you just connect that battery or disconnect it. Mm-hmm. They were really smart, man. Mm-hmm. Like really smart with it. Where they put them was always, I mean, it felt like you were being hunted. I don't know if you're a hunter or anybody, I'm sure folks that are watching hunt, and you got to think about like, where are the deer going to go? Where are the animals? You got to get there before they do. The way they would place these IEDs felt like that. Mm-hmm. Like it was on this path at this location, but not on this side, only over here. Like,
yeah.
And fucks to your head, to be blunt,
Well, no, I remember those years, like in Iraq. Iraq was heavy. Afghanistan, we were lucky our valley was like no IEDs. But South, IED, crazy. So it was whatever valley or AO you were in Afghanistan. It was completely different, almost valley to valley. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I remember the pressure plates. It was kind of a funny story. We the one time our deployment, everyone was in the wire for like 10 minutes. Just happened that the patrols came in, map section had come in to refuel, very small signature fob. Everyone's in, and IED goes off, and we're like, map section's in. They're like, second platoon's in, or whatever. And we're like, everyone's in, and so everyone kind of felt good. Like it was one of those things where you felt good. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, wasn't our guys, and immediately we're like, what happened? Map section runs out. Dudes were putting an IED in. They were using cardboard, but the cardboard is a little bit too not stiff enough, and they just detonated out. It was just
couldn't happen to a better guy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like spread them across the road. It was just so we always tell that story. It was like it was funny because we were like, it wasn't us. So who hit it? Like not. And then we found out like, oh yeah, like, awesome. They took themselves out. So. But that's I was curious about that. Like you run into so many IEDs, and so what would you guys kind of do to counter? You talk about valve metal detectors, but was it just tactics? Were you guys always switching it up, or these guys were, I got hit with dismounted in Iraq, so sometimes they're just said they're hunting you. You turn a corner, they've already figured out you're going to turn that corner, and they connect it. So
yeah.
Were you guys always kind of just trying to switch stuff up? What was your kind of SOPs at that time?
The switching up was the route. And essentially it came down to take the hardest route possible, which again, rural terrain. So it's different than an urban center where like you can really only go down the street. Like there's a street, you somehow have to take a street. Almost everything we did, 95+% was dismounted patrols. When we only used vehicles to go back to the main base. And even then you're ever so often cranking one of those IEDs off. But you're walking everywhere. So over time, the TTPs developed into a dog out front. I think it was metal detector out front. Again, I wasn't leading these patrols, right?
Yeah.
I was the guy way back there, like stay out of the way. So a combination of metal detectors, ground penetrating radar, and bomb sniffing dogs.
Right.
And they rolled out a program while we were there because those dogs take so long to train. And our first dog was a Marine.
Yeah.
A Marine dog trained in Israel and hated the Afghans.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah.
He smelled, he got everything. He found all the IEDs. But when the Afghan army would walk by, he'd go feral on them. Yeah. He associated, the bombs with the good guys, and he did not like that. So they started putting together a program where they train these dogs in a shorter period of time, and you could switch over MOSs in the Army and become a dog handler. This was kind of standing up the dog handler program. So, or at least in mass. So we didn't need 10, we needed like 10,000, right? So we got to the point where every platoon had a dog. Every platoon had multiple metal detectors and multiple ground penetrating radars. And then where we would walk, the guy with either the GPR or the Valen would have a little bottle of baby powder, and he would, every couple feet, just sprinkle a little baby powder down. The reason for that was when you're clearing an agricultural field of mines, you are not clearing 5 feet by 5 feet. You're clearing like 12 inches wide, right? You're clearing a small path. And a lot of the IED strikes that happened in our battalion was just veering a foot off that path. Like, this is clear. I can't tell you anything about right there.
No.
So we would mark the path with baby powder. Not this general vicinity, but like step on it. And you would look for the boot marks of the people in front of you. Like, that's clear because Joey stepped on it and Joey didn't go boom. And then we tinkered around with other things or thought about other things like chem lights or engineering tape. But at the end of the day, you wanted something that would blow away in the wind, wouldn't stick around for long, and you could get a lot of pretty cheaply. So pretty quickly, we had people's families sending over huge boxes of baby powder, and it became a critical supply.
Yeah.
We passed that throughout the battalion. I think other units started doing it as well, but at least within dog, it was every single patrol was marked with baby powder. And then, you go this way, and then the next day has to be an entirely different route.
It is.
And just jumping over, like, when it's agricultural, it's like, there's a path, there's 6 walls in a row. It's like, we have to go over the walls. Or there's a bridge, there's a nasty, dirty stream, like, we have to go through the stream.
Yes.
That was part of it too, was genuinely, some of our guys had a mindset of like, this needs to be, I need to make the hardest decision every time. And by doing that, you avoid the intersections, you avoid the, like, dude, little things, right? Like, there's a 4-foot wall. At one point, there is a chip out of the wall. So instead of having to go 4 feet over, you only have to go 2.5 feet over. There's an IED right there. Because they're hunting you. And they know, like, if I have to mine this entire area, put it in the one area where it's the path of least resistance. So it's just stuff like that.
Well, it's that mindset too. It's like, I always think back to, it was always, again, the hunter and the huntee kind of thing. When we were snipers, the worst environment is the best environment for us to operate in. So jungle is amazing. If it's pissing rain, it's cold. The sentries are not, they don't pay attention. We could get, we would do this training in Hawaii. And so you would be able to get up within 3 feet of some Marine in a ghillie. They would never know it. And that was kind of like always a competition.
Yeah.
But it's also training because it's about mentality. Like, so when it's the worst out, like, I love rain. If you are inserting, rain is your friend. It's noisy, it's miserable, it's cold, it's wet. But for you, it's great because you're the one maneuvering through the darkness, or you're the one maneuvering. And so it helps mask sound, it helps do whatever. Plus, people don't really care because it's cold, it's wet, etc. Same with the cold. It's like, it's just, you take the path of most resistance.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be looking there. They're going to be looking down the road. And even like me as infantryman, like, yeah, like, I'm going to sit there for 8 hours. The road is my thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, am I going to be paying, if you're in a jungle, you're not going to be, doing that for 8 hours.
Right.
You're going to start zoning out, thinking about something else.
And you're tired. And
you're
exhausted.
tired.
And then, like, you don't even think about it. You take that little path of least resistance or whatever. And
And that's what I say, but you guys are doing, it's like, you're countering that. So they know that, but you're like, no, we have to take that that hard route. I think that's a little bit about the beauty in Afghanistan. It was they had trails, but where we were, it's mountainous, so you could like veer everywhere and be like, yeah, we're gonna go up this thing. Oh no, we're gonna not do the finger. We're just gonna straight up.
Yeah,
because they're not there. Or we didn't have to worry about IEDs, but you have to worry about them running down on you. But at least you would be like, oh, there they are. We could shoot them. There's no IEDs over here, or we're going this way. It was so much land and mountain to cover. We were in this like weird area that was like mountainous, but it was accessible. So it's like, good luck finding the route. Yeah, stay off the trail. Like, just walk. Yeah. There was a trail sometimes where you're like, yeah, just go 5 feet off. It wasn't even like super austere, but it's like, you're not gonna, and it's like 5 clicks down. So like, yeah, we can see everything. So good luck trying to put one there. It's not on the path. So I agree with you. It's kind of like just trying to pick and choose your routes, but
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah. Absolutely. So what you guys did, how long did you guys were there for?
12 months.
12 months.
Yeah, we started base security, moved out to a strong point, lived there for 7 months, just an Afghan's home, slept in a mud hut.
Yeah.
Those, talk about good memories. Like, those are the memories right there.
Yeah.
Huddle around a small little screen to watch Sons of Anarchy or Entourage or something at night. Chain smoking Maywans and Pines, $5 a carton.
Yeah.
Because you're technically outside the whole time. So guys would like lay in their bunks just ripping dirty Afghan cigs. And it's freezing. It's so cold at night for Afghanistan. You don't think it's being cold, right? But like, oh God.
What months were they again?
So June, we were there for a full year, June to June. We took over the strong point in September and rolled out in April. So through the winter out there. And it was like, we'd have like construction heaters out there to keep us warm.
Yeah, it's horrific. People don't know that. Like, it was like, we were ready for it. They gave us like cold weather training. We had cold weather gear. We knew what we were getting into, but like, it can get nightmarish.
We were not ready for it. Like, we had everybody packed that stuff because they were told to pack that stuff. But a few months in, you're like, I don't think there's any reason I'm going to need that. And then when winter hit, it's like, this is ridiculously cold.
Yeah, one night and you're like,
you're outside the whole time too, right? Like, that's part of it. It wasn't that cold just being on like a big base.
Yeah.
But when there's no inside, like
how was it then? Were you guys getting hit with IDF at all then, if you guys were all out? Or was it more just small arms?
Not that base. Yeah. That base was small arms fire.
It was just like, it was like, how big was it again? Like,
small, man. It was a house.
It's a house? Yeah. Well, it was like
Afghan house though, so they had like the courtyard,
or whatever.
Yeah, like there would have been, compound is a better way to put it, but I mean, we housed 40 people there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm kind of thinking like the sizes, obviously. Well, how tall were the walls?
There was a compound, man. They were like on the. There's a reason we chose this one.
Yeah,
probably 8 foot tall.
Okay, so it's pretty solid. I mean, I've seen like 20 foot tall, so it's like.
Oh yeah, not that bad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But 8 foot tall.
A lot. Yeah.
And then you strong point it. So like we built up like significant positions on each one of the corners, and then eventually built a new real base next to it and bulldozed the whole thing over. But
nice.
We had one of the good memories there is you're always trying to find better ways to eat, right? Because you've got the MREs and you've got the Cliff Bars and the Gatorade and the Jack Links, all that stuff. But we eventually were able to scavenge some like steaks from the supply guys back on the main base.
Oh yeah.
Way to cook them. So they built this fire pit and they cooked up, a couple of our guys cooked up steaks for the whole unit. And you're eating it with like a pocket knife and it's tough as shit. It was at least a day later, if not a couple days later, we were talking about the firewood. Like, how did you get that fire going? Because we're kind of in the middle of like a deserty area a little bit. Like, when there's no trees nearby. They'd been stripping down pallets. And after pallets had been used, they'd take that wood, break it down, throw it into the fire.
Yeah.
It's like, that is about as treated wood gets. And that was our cooking fuel. So, like, yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
there's no way that's good.
How many chemicals you got into those steaks?
Yeah, everybody's talking about burn pits. It's like, no, we cooked over it. That's where that came from.
That's rough. Yeah, that's we did that once or twice. I don't know what we used in Iraq. It was our second pump. Nothing was happening though, so it was more of just like wishing to do stupid shit just for fun. And from chow hall, we got a bunch of steaks and cookies. And I remember it was a bed. It was like a metal bed frame that would hold the foam, so there was like a little lip on it. And they put a grate, and I can't remember where we got the grate from.
Ours were Hesco's.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was exactly, that's what it was, Hesco grate. And we threw it on, and the guys, I don't know what we used for fuel, or again, for wood, I don't know what we used, But it was enough though that you cooked those steaks. It was actually some of the best steaks ever. It really was. They weren't chewy, you know, because typically chow hall steaks, you know, the surf and turf nights you get from like Bagram, horrific. They're terrible, but it's like cool. You just slather it in barbecue sauce and whatever. You know, it's good to go. But yeah, those were some where like guys that they actually like cooked it. It was like good. Like I was like, it's
all right.
Good. Yeah, it was good steaks. And the cookies, we'd put the cookies on like St. Martha's or something, and you cook them for, or you know, bake them for
toast cookies.
Yeah, just toasted cookies. Yeah, dude, it was.
Jeez, you guys had it figured out.
It was primo. We did it on like 2 ops, but it was more. We did these clearing ops, and it was just like boring because there was no tier 1 ID sites. Basically, they're just trying to keep us out of trouble because we weren't doing anything. So yeah, that wasn't that exciting. But I those are some of the fun memories.
Yeah,
I'm with you. That were like you're out in the middle of the fob, no one's really watching, you're just having a good time, chilling, you're getting inventive. It's the small things you appreciate, you know. Just like yeah.
So you're talking about hazing lieutenants. That's where the closest thing to my hazing probably came in. We had a burn pit, slept right next to it. You know, all the good stuff. Taking in all those solid fumes. And it was my birthday, and I thought I had done a good job of keeping that under wraps. Like, you don't want anybody to know that at baseline in the military. Certainly not when you're sleeping out in the middle of Afghanistan with a bunch of other dudes that are like way too bored. So we would do 2 weeks on, and then you'd go back for a shower and a meal, and then you come back out. So you essentially packed for like 2 to 3 weeks at a time a rucksack and an assault pack, and you'd have your little bed. It was either made out of plywood or it was an actual army cot. So like that's your setup, and you know you make it comfortable, right? You've got you put your books here, and you've got whatever, you got your little place. And one night we'd finish watching Sons of Anarchy or something. I went back into our little bedroom and my shit was gone. All of it. Just gone. And like I'm tired and it's late. In place in my bed was a map. And the map was like a 2-year-old had drawn it, right? Like I have a 7-year-old daughter who could draw better than this. It's not even close. And it was a map of the strong point, and it had like arrows and X's where I had to go to like, essentially they'd sent me like to 3 different corners of the strong point to find another map that would send me somewhere else. And the last one direct me to the burn pit, and our burn pit was like a U shape, and in the middle there was like a elevated area. They had relocated my bunk to the middle of the burn pit. And those things just like, it's not fire, but it's just constantly smoking.
Yeah.
All day, every day, right? And I was walking near it, I was like, you sons of bitches. And as I got close to it, one of my soldiers jumped out of the burn pit to scare me. It's like, Chompy, what do you do with Kurtz was his name, Private Kurtz. Chompy's what we called him. It's like, you can't hide in the burn pit. What are you doing, bro?
Yeah. And you think it was funny. That's a terrible idea.
And then they were like, hey, happy birthday, sir. And then they left. It's like, God damn it. Like, I've got to get my stuff out. And it smells, reeks of burning batteries, and everything goes in the burn pit, right? Like radio batteries go in there. So like it just, oh God, it smelled so bad. But yeah. I know that was, we got there, we were throwing stuff in the burn pit, and we thought we had got hit by a mortar. And like my first deployment in 06, same thing, small compounds, fit a whole company size element in it. It was wild. We were stacked on top of each other. It was an old school, and then there was another school, or it was 2 schools that they'd taken over, and they busted the wall down. So it was like, kind of worked out because it was 2 stories, so you could put like a squad in each classroom essentially, but very small. And the burn pit blows up. We're like, what is going on? They find out the unit before 3-1, because I think we relieved 3-1. They had just thrown their 203s into the burn pit to like just get rid of them or someone carry it. Yeah, and it was like, oh, so we had to like, I didn't have to, but I remember the company, because I was probably on patrol or something, but they had to like dig stuff out and like figure it. Dig UXO out of the burn pit. Dig UXO out of the burn pit. Because guys were throwing them in that we, so you're like, great, so what else is in there? So naturally, luckily I didn't have to do it, but some other privates did. But no, we had to stir shit, so we had outhouses. We shit into a can, and then we would take the can, because that was a boot, we'd drag it out, it was full of shit, we'd put gasoline on it, and then we just stir for like a few hours, just stirring it. So all of us privates, I got photos of it. People are like, no way. I was like, we got photos, like, and we're flipping the camera off, and we're holding burning shit on the what do you call those? They're like you pound them in the ground, they're like the stakes almost, or whatever, but we'd use those to stir. I can't remember what you call them, but yeah, it was just T-posts?
T-post maybe, yeah, or something like that. It was something like it has like the groove,
metal,
metal groove, and so we're just stirring. They just stirring it to ash, till it was ash. And when it was ash, threw it in the burn pit. Spent hours doing that, and people were like, "No way, Joe." I was like, and by the way, that's not a common thing. You know what I mean? Like everyone's like, "Oh, I thought that was just in the movies." Like we did it, other units didn't. Like you had wag bags, or you had a burn pit, but not actually burning your shit. Like we had to burn our shit for sanitation purposes, because you can't have open sewage. One
of my lowest points in Afghanistan was I had at that base, it was outdoor, our toilet, there's a hole in the ground, and we built a little wood toilet essentially. It was not enclosed, it was just, you just sat there and could like talk to everybody, and then our piss hole was just a hole over in the other corner.
They trench it and then put something over it.
Oh no.
It was just like
This was a strong point that we were only supposed to be in for a short period of time, and ended up being 7 months. So we eventually upgraded to a bigger base, but yeah, we'd probably not do it the right way, but shithole and a piss hole, and both of them would just get burned out each morning. Same thing, JPA going in there and just let it ride. But I had a stretch where I had to have been dysentery. Like I couldn't keep anything down. I would take like a bite of food and have to run to the bathroom. And it was cold and it was raining, and in one night, cold, pretty heavy rain too. And it's dark, and I can still remember just sitting on this toilet out in the open and shitting my guts out. And you're just in cold rain in the dark. It's like, this is pretty low.
Yeah.
Just like, it just felt so depressing. Of all the bad things that can happen, that was like, I just felt bad for myself. You know what I mean? Where it's like, what are you doing, man?
It's the worst. Yeah, especially dysentery. I had that too. You're just like, yeah. And that's, so you guys weren't even undercover. So you guys just like were you in baby sacks then, just getting pissed on by the rain?
No, the compound, right?
Oh,
so we had like certain buildings.
Oh, okay. All right,
we probably 4 or 5 buildings in this compound.
Okay. Yeah. Because we did operations where we're getting pissed on by the rain, but it was only temporary. But it still sucked. You
just don't go to the bathroom in the rain. It's like you just wait. It didn't usually rain that long in Afghanistan, but when you can't control it, it's like, this is gonna be a long night.
It's gonna be a really, really bad night. No, we had we had dug it because we were building the fob, and so we dug it was kind of it was actually pretty, I should say, ingenious. But we took we had the French, they had the big not earth movers, but what do you call them? Excavators.
Yeah.
And so they dug a trench pretty deep. It was 10 feet, and then we just put boards over it, and then built toilets on top of that. It was temporary, but it worked. It was ingenious. It was okay, cool, we're gonna basically, and it was for you to fill that trench, it would be months. Like a company size element would take months to fill, because it was 10 feet deep, 20 feet wide, insane. And it was and then you just cover it up. You just put the dirt back in and then shift everything. Yeah, it's it turned into the how do you build shitters in Afghanistan podcast. That's what this is actually about.
Yeah.
It's what's the most proficient way to build toilets on a forward operating base. But yeah, that's crazy. So then you guys were there. What was did you guys have big success? Did you guys end up pushing stuff out? You know what I'm saying? What was your kind of the highlight? The unit highlight? Did you guys smoke some HV high value targets? Did you manage to stuff like that, or is it just starting out, push out, retake, hold?
Yep, more to the latter. It was an entire area that civilians had left because the Taliban controlled it and turned it into an engagement zone. They were just using it to fight coalition forces. So we pushed through, cleared it pretty well, I'd say, and built, I want to say 9 new strong points throughout.
Okay.
So all these little checkpoints in areas that in some of the places coalition forces hadn't been throughout the war. There was one of the early patrols ran into in a deep area. We hadn't been down there. They thought we were Russians. This is 2010, man.
Right.
They just hadn't seen anybody. So we did that. The next unit came in, did the same thing. Some civilians started to move back, but honestly, within a couple of years, we pulled back, handed over to the Afghans. They kept some of those positions, pulled back from others, and yeah, I would say at a snapshot in time, it was successful, but very temporary.
Yeah. So then you guys rotate back in June 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that transitioning like, going back to civilian sector, or not civilian sector, come back from deployment?
Great to be home. I didn't handle it very well personally. I was talking about how there wasn't a lot of fear while deployed because it was more concerned about looking like an idiot in front of the guys or letting the guys down. But that fear exists. I just kind of bottled it down, and when I came home, kind of just registered how many close calls you have and how many IEDs you actually stepped on that didn't go off, and you start realizing how much of it is just rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back on the guys that were so much stronger mentally and physically than me and had done this for so long and they died, and you're like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form better than that guy. It's the opposite. And you just kind of start to connect the dots. And that deployment specifically, that's the only one I really speak to, but like how much of it is just blind luck. And that hit. So I think I probably didn't handle that the best way possible. Did a lot of drinking, a lot of eating. And right when we got home, we got our next deployment lined up about 9 months later. So I was in the process, that process of like trying to party and celebrate, and like you can finally like go out to eat on a Thursday and stay up late watching TV or whatever. And I went from that straight into like, now I have to not stop kind of celebrating because I'm going back in 8 months. And I just like kind of come to terms with how much of a roll of the dice it was, and kind of convinced myself like, oh, okay. Well, we need to just like go balls to the walls now. It wasn't working out. It wasn't studying. It wasn't shooting. I mean, I did all of the necessary pre-deployment stuff, but it was much more of a kind of gluttony, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I then deployed again in May. So kind of back for less than a year and then straight back over to Afghanistan.
What was your role the second time?
A battalion fire support officer. And we were doing some training of the Afghans up in the eastern portion of the country. Not a kinetic deployment. We were on a big base and just teaching them. We helped them stand up their artillery units. So we trained them on D-30 howitzers and how to call for fire. And that one was that was a 7-month deployment. So that was shorter.
D-30s, were those Russian or those? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
because
Russian. 122 millimeter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we didn't work with them, but we knew of them, like the D-30s. This was 08, 09, so I don't know if they were standing them up yet. I mean, nobody wanted the Afghans to be doing any type of fire sport, but like I know they were starting to talk about the D-30s.
Yeah, so this was 2012 when I went back, and we were, and it varied by corps. They rolled them out at different times, so I only know of that one group out into KL, so we were in Logman province.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of up in the J-Bad type area. They were rolling it out in 2012. So like we fielded the D-30s to these guys, but they were not the first. So yeah, a couple other. I think out west they got them first actually.
Okay. Yeah,
but anyways.
Did they do any fire missions, like actual combat fire missions?
They viewed artillery very different than we did.
Yeah.
For us, it's an indirect fire system.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole point of artillery is you do not need to be able to see the target from the gun to engage it. You have somebody like a fire supporter out there giving you the coordinates. We had the hardest time connecting those dots with the Afghans, that you can fire and the observer doesn't see it fired but sees it hit, and the gunner sees it fired but doesn't see it hit. That we had just the hardest time getting that through. So we conducted like joint fire missions where we had like guys with the forward observers and then guys at the gun. But when it came to the Afghans having the howitzers themselves, no, they were just direct firing those things in the side of bounds.
Yeah.
And they also, like, if you or I were to look at this overlay of enemy activity and like where these guns should go, you and I would have probably put them in about the same places, and the Afghans put them in like the polar opposite.
Yeah.
They loaded up heavy on population centers. And we're like, well, there's no contact there. These outposts get contact. Put the guns there. And they're like, no, here, because it's a symbol. It shows the people. Look at the big guns we had.
A morale thing. It's more of like not intimidation, but yeah, it's more of a pride or whatever. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, so there's not going to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guys are actually getting shot at in other sectors, and they don't have artillery support because the howitzers are on parade in Medellin.
It's so wild, like, thinking about that. Like, we were there for 20 years. We had, obviously, issues with that. Like, you look up cultural, the way they fight, the way they view, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like one of those things where, I don't know, I feel like when people talk about Afghanistan, you talk about coin, I think maybe this is a little more, I was talking with, I think, Nick Laidlaw about this on our podcast, or our show a few weeks ago. It's kind of frustrating when we were working with the coin, because one, it's like, they're like, because everyone always, I shouldn't say the smart asses, but like the people that are like, well, after 20 years we lost, or the Taliban, they won. It's like, no, they didn't win. It's like, if you truly went to Afghanistan, well, you can conquer Afghanistan. It can 1000% be conquered. But what are you willing to do to conquer it? You know what I mean? Like, it's or colonize or do whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if we truly went in there, we're like, we're gonna make this happen. You can do it. Like, they're not gonna stop you. They didn't stop us from going in. Like, well, what about the generals? Like, yeah, the Taliban just hung out in the wings. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, if you really wanted to hunt them down, or you really wanted, like, it's not like these guys were amazing tacticians. You got to respect them in those valleys, as we're sure, because they'll overrun you. But at that same point, like, I think that's the thing, and maybe it's not just Afghanistan, but it's also like you look at what the Russians are doing in Ukraine. It's total war. You displace the populations, you take the city, you never let go, and you only put in people who are completely pro your government. You know what I mean? Because when I was there as a contractor, you would hear, because we escorted politicians around, we had John McCain's detail, and we also had his aides with us, and then he was like in the ambassadors team struggles in Kabul, and you would hear them talk about how we're going to the Hamptons. And that was always like, we're going to the Hamptons this summer, or whatever, blah blah blah. That very East Coast talk, and then they go, we should advise, and we need to really advise Mr. McCain, because we hear them talking, that we should give Karzai a $20 million grab bag so that we can get him back on our side. And I remember I was the vehicle commander, and I looked over at my buddy who was the driver, because just us two in there, and we kind of look at each other, and we're like, are you serious right now? What convincing, why would you have to convince Hamid Karzai anything? Mm-hmm. Why are we giving him any money? Like, the man they're corrupt. They're like, I mean, we've been on ground, but we give him another 20 million to get him on our side. And it's always that kind of, I guess, for me, that frustration. But when you talk about the culture, that D30 is there to show the people that we're strong. Like, you're not, this is, they're, let's say, paper tigers, but it's surface level stuff. And it's just the strong man in that culture is the one that runs it. I think that was frustrating. I'm sure, I don't know if you had done anything with the evac or anything like that. Like, I know I did. And I remember telling my interpreter, I was like, why are any of the Afghans picking up weapons and fighting? I was like, you guys have an insane amount of munitions just lying around. Why are they not fighting? He's like, oh, it's just not part of our culture. It's not. What do we do for the last 20 years? Like, you have pride in your people. Like, why aren't you I can't get you out of the country, you better form up a militia. You better, believe me, I know there's plenty of AKs running. And it's just they're like, oh, we just don't civilians don't do that. And so then you're like, well, I don't know how to protect you anymore. I'm like, I'm sorry I couldn't get you out. We got some families out, but it was like, and then the SF guys, I totally understand why the special operations Afghans were like, we're bugging out. Like, what's here? We'll go to the U.S., live a good life, and because they'll get their visas, or at least they can get on the evac birds, and whatever. But if you stay, and some did stay and fight, there were some true fighters, but you're like, not enough like the Taliban. It's like, I don't know. I guess it's me. I don't know if I'm ranting, but it's like, what I'm saying? It's that D30 aspect of you trying to hey, this is a crazy good asset for you guys. That could hold back the Taliban advancing into Kabul. Now, it's for the people. You're like, okay, so do you really care to win? And obviously some of them were on the take on both sides, clearly. So you're like, we our Afghan commanders, we had one guy that he was pretty cool. He was actually one of the better commanders, but he was just selling weapons on the black market. He was he hated the Taliban, but he would just sell, I don't know if he sold them back to Pakistan or what, but he had some crazy black market thing going on, but we just never touched it. But they were I think something's going on here. But he also fought the Taliban in the 90s. and he was there as a commander fighting them. Like, so he hated him, but he was also like willing to sell his own weapons to like enrich his own pockets. So I don't know. It's like I don't know. I guess that's more the frustrating aspect. Or when you talk about tactics or stuff like that, it's like, no, if we want to win this war, we absolutely could. It's just that what are you willing to do? I think that's something that people, if you look at the Ukraine war, there is very much like a separation clearly. But if you're following, you're like, the Russians are willing to do anything to win. Yeah. And it is ugly and it is nasty. But if you're willing to do it, you can win. You know, right now we're finding out, like, not to go off on another tier, but like the way the Russians are doing things, like, you know, like, because people talk about Gaza, like Gaza's Disneyland compared to like what Russians have done to Ukraine, like displacing people, murdering people outright, mass graves, wiping out complete cities and towns, and no mercy to, I mean, like, they're torturing prisoners and shooting them on sight. You know what I mean? Like, and running right into buildings. Like, they're targeting anything and everything. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, if you really, really, truly do war, like I think about Afghanistan, I'm like, yeah, I mean, and you don't have to be so violent with it in Afghanistan, but it's like, dude, yeah, like, if that story goes a different way, if they were like, hey, we're gonna be here for 20 years, I feel like there's gonna be, you know, a little bit more aggressiveness on them. Yep, we don't care, and we're gonna put somebody in charge who does care. It's Hamid Karzai. You don't back us, okay, then you're gone. They're not saying we kill you, but like, dude, you're gone. Like, we're rigging your election. Right. Like, we're pumping money into this. Why would you, you know, not have a puppet government? You know, now you get into morals and ethics, but it's like, you know, Russians do it, and it's horrific, but they've had some success with that. You know, Chinese do it. So, that's my rant on that. On why off the D30s, you know, like, but I know what you mean, that frustration. It's like, oh, they wanted to put it in the city square. It's like, cool, that's stupid, but okay, you know. But anyways, so you guys do that, and that was not as kinetic, or it wasn't as good.
No, I was my job, I was a first lieutenant, and my job was advising an Afghan major in their brigade headquarters. Mm-hmm. And so we oversaw those 4 provinces, and that was, I mean, we took a little bit indirect. The big threat at that time for us was the insider threat. That's when that was really catching some steam, and we had a couple issues inside of our AO, but not anything that I ever had to deal with. So pretty low key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that we had the only insider thing we had an issue with was one Afghan turned on I think it was AMP, because we never would have had to worry about ours, the RNA. RNA were like, we literally like slept with them out on missions, like,
yeah, same,
no issues. But there was one incident when we got there, the AMP turned around and shot one of the, was it contractors or it was Army? Because it was Blackwater had the contract to train them on the M4s or the M16s. And he turned around and shot one dude. They lived, and they, like, I don't know if it was the contractor or the Army guy. They were together, but they turned guns on him and shot him. And so Afghan was killed by the Taliban infiltrator, but then they were fine. The guy was wounded, but hadn't, you know, he lived and everything like that. But it's the only incident we had. And then your guys' era, like, they're talking about that. They're like, the whatever blue on green was like like insane. I was like, holy shit.
It was pretty regular. I mean, there were, I want to say 4 or 5 incidents, like pretty significant incidents of Americans getting killed or seriously wounded just in our little area.
Yeah, oh, shit. Yeah. So you guys do that. When do you get back from that one?
December of 12.
December 12.
Yep.
And you stay in. What's
No, I decided at that point I wanted to get out. I was frustrated on that deployment. I don't think I handled all that super well. I showed up to that deployment overweight. Mm-hmm. Had to cut a lot of weight while we were there. Didn't like my boss. I felt like we were wasting our time. We wrote our end of tour awards the first month we were there. This feels like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. I had to write up how successful I was for the next few months in a war zone. We had no idea. It just felt weird, but due to the processing time and the admin, like, that's how bureaucratic the war already was in 2012. And I don't know, I wanted to get on and try something new. At that point, it had been 4 years at West Point, 3 or 4 years in the Army, and I owed 5 years active. So I'd spent, coming up on a decade of this. Yeah. And I'd done the deployments. I don't know, there's a part of you that as a young man, like you want it, can you do it? Can you go to a war zone and come back and all that? And I don't know, I just wanted to try some other stuff. So came home, met my to-be wife, and transitioned out then when I hit the 5-year mark. Left active duty. It was not the end of my military career, but I did leave active duty in May of 2014.
Mm-hmm. So what was like after that? What was kind of the roadmap after that?
I had no idea what I wanted to do, man. My wife was in her residency program up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so I was trying to find a job around there and couldn't find much, didn't really know what I was looking for. Had never done a job search before. I ended up taking a position with Northwestern Mutual, thinking that it was more of like a financial advisor, coach kind of thing, but it was selling insurance. And I just like didn't recognize that as I was going through the interview process. Just naive, I think is probably the right way to put it. So hated that, really disliked that. And about 6 months in, jumped over to a tech job in Chicago. So we moved over there. It was former military guys, the founders of the small company. The founders were West Point guys, which is how the connection was made there. And it was more of just like almost like a startup where you're just like grinding, doing whatever needs to be done. It reminded me of the early months on a deployment.
Yeah.
We were like, we don't know what is happening here. We don't know how to do this. Everybody's just got to work hard and find ways to make it work. So, he's moved to Chicago and did that for a couple of years.
I mean, did you like that, or how'd that kind of?
It was better.
Yeah.
It's all this weird comparison, right? Because you don't know, and this is my rant, is you don't know what you're good at. You don't know what you like. Because you start doing something, and that's all you really know.
Yeah.
Like, for the people who have been in the military for 20 years, that's great. They don't know what it would have been like if they were an EMT, or if they were a teacher, or if they were an entrepreneur. You don't know until you try these other things. So I think a lot of people end up convincing themselves. How many people do you know who say, like, I love what I do, I love my job? It's like, you probably don't.
Yeah.
Right? You are an administrator that sits in a basement somewhere in a cubicle that doesn't see the light of day, and like, I don't know, like there's no way you can tell me you love that. Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but I just think a lot of folks convince themselves, I love this thing because I don't know any different, and I feel like I better tell myself that, or it's super depressing. So I feel like you just need to try things and get out, do something different. And so at that time, that job was the best job I had had. Very different than the Army, of course, but on the civilian side, it was the most rewarding. And I did that for like 4 years, 4 or 5 years about. Moved down to Texas, started working for them remote. They allowed remote work, so we were like, let's do it. My family was in Texas, so we went down there and knew we wanted to start a family, so wanted to be around family to do that. And worked remote for them until about, I think it was 2019, 2020, when I made another career move.
Where'd you move to?
Started work for my family.
Yeah.
This was a bit of a challenge. I was feeling not fulfilled in this technology job, and I started looking for jobs in some federal agencies, CIA, FBI, organizations like that. Had some applications in, went through the interview process, and was planning on going that route. And my dad hired me into the family business, which is real estate investing at this point. So it's not CIA, not FBI, not national security, but they were looking to expand a little bit, and I did that, and that was going to keep us all pretty close there in Texas once we started our family. So. Yeah, did that for a couple of years. That was not a fit. I'll tell you what, man, every one of these things, like, it doesn't fit. I start doing it, and I think it's going to be good, and I tell myself how it's going to be good, and then it just doesn't work. And when I was in Texas working for the tech company, I went back into the National Guard, ended up taking command of a HIMARS battery down there. And awesome people, loved it. It was great. But like, I was trying to figure out something. I was missing something. I didn't know what it was. And once you get out of the military, I feel like I'm talking to somebody who knows what I'm talking about. If you went back into the Guard, once you come out of the military, the minute you feel like you're missing something, you assume like it must be that. There's something with that. And I think to a degree that's true. And I went back into the National Guard, and I enjoyed my time there. And then all of a sudden it started ramping up again. And the unit was going on to deployment, a year-long deployment. And And all of a sudden it was like 3-week-long training exercises. And now I have a family and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, there's part of this that I missed, but I don't think this is what I missed. And so I was really looking for something to like feel good about myself and enjoy. Like, it's a weird feeling at 26 to feel like, wait, was that it? Have I like peaked? Was the thing going on deployment in 2011? Was that like, now I'm just going to be in some boring ass office job that I can hardly describe? So that's where National Guard, looking into FBI, CIA, trying to find something. And eventually family business went one direction. I decided to move to Tennessee with my wife, start a business, and we wanted to try to do something ourselves. And that's kind of, now we're here in Nashville, right?
Yeah. So what? So even with the real estate investing, did you like help purchase properties then? Or what was kind of the deal with it?
Yeah, they're land. They're
land. Okay.
Yeah, they're landlords. So they purchase commercial property, and they have some here in Nashville. They have a lot in Texas, some in Colorado, some in Arizona, and they purchase things like CVS or Medical Plaza or a strip center, things like that. And it's pretty passive. This is my dad was the third generation to run a chain of convenience stores in Illinois, and they sold that in 2017, 2018, and they moved, and they owned all of the locations. So they sold that real estate technically, and they rolled it into other real estate. 1031 exchange, I think is what it's called, to where you don't have to pay taxes on it because it goes from one to another, and that moved them into the real estate game. And they've been growing that portfolio now for a few years.
Yeah.
And it's very successful, and it's a very small company because it doesn't require a lot of work. Like, they don't do the repairs, right? They hire people to go find leases. They are not the first point of contact when a sprinkler breaks. There's property managers. They are just out there looking for new properties to buy, and they try to buy, 3, 4, 5 each year. And that pace was not it for me, man.
Well, it's like good that you at least identify that, because you don't want to be there for 15 years. You're like, I hate this. Even though if it is successful or you're good and making good money or whatever, you're just like, I hate this. And I'm one of those guys that's fortunate knowing what I wanted to do. I loved what I did even before I did the Marine Corps. I did have a little bit of, not a freak out by any means, but I know what that feeling is like. I remember going to film school the first week and being like, am I going to be good at this? Like, I built this in my head for 13, 14 years that I'm going to be the next Michael Bay, Steven Spielberg. And I'm like, am I even going to be good at this? Like, I might not even be good at it.
But what if I don't like it?
I don't like it, yeah. And it is kind of like it's like, what do you do from there, And no, I agree with you. I think a lot of guys, at least you identified, you try something new. Because people get stuck, or you're like, like I said, you have kids, or a daughter. And so it's like, it's people, but there's nothing wrong with it. I know guys like, hey, I need to get a job because I have a kid.
Yeah.
I joined the Marine Corps, and guys were like, I told my wife the other day, I was like, yeah, there's just a crazy mix of people. There's like the hardliners that like myself, like, could be a Marine, do this. And then there's the college dropouts, people barely at high school, and then people that were just like, got my girlfriend pregnant, went over to the recruiter, and they're like, get you health care. She's due in 6 months,
Let's lock this down.
Let's lock it down. He's like, I gotta get health care. And like, just sign the papers to active duty. And it was like, I'll figure it out after 4 years, which isn't a terrible way to go. At least like you're taking, you got some path for 4 years to figure something out. But no, yeah, I agree with you, man. It's like, you got to try something different. You did multiple, it's at least you keep pursuing it.
The reason that I think that's really important is especially Northwestern Mutual, I hated it. And pretty quickly realized I hated it. But I thought like moving on quickly would be a sign of failure. And like, no, what you do is you put your head down. I could handle West Point, I could handle 101st Airborne, I could handle the Taliban, I could handle Afghanistan, but I can't handle an office job in Grand Rapids. So you're just like, no, I can do this. And you put your head down and you go. And I woke up feeling sick every day. I hated it so much. Like, a sick to my stomach, didn't want to go to the office, was trying to find excuses not to go, but it was a commission job. So like, if I didn't go, I didn't get paid. And if I didn't do the work, I didn't get paid. And it was the kind of job where I felt great come Friday afternoon, great on Saturday, but on Saturday night, I started to get that sense of dread that I only had one more day of the weekend before I had to go back and do this. And like, I didn't realize, I thought that was just normal. I didn't realize how awful that is until you don't feel that way. When all of a sudden you don't wake up feeling sick because you have to go to work. You're not dreading Monday, like genuinely dreading Monday. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was important to look for other things.
So then how did you feel then doing like working for your family? Was that kind of the same way too? Or was it just like, this isn't for me, I need to figure something out?
I struggled with that one because it's family-owned business.
Yeah.
And again, my great-grandfather started it, then my grandfather ran it, then he passed it to my dad. I'm the oldest in our generation,
Okay.
the oldest in my family. And for most of my life, kind of had in my mind that I would eventually kind of take that over, or at least work with him in some capacity. So when the opportunity came, it was like 100%.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, let's do this thing. And that was hard. Almost burned some bridges in walking away from that because my family was trying to do, my parents were trying to do what they thought was best for me. I was trying to do what was best for me. It didn't always line up. I wanted, like, to put it bluntly, like, I wanted more work. I had very little to do each day, and I didn't like it. I needed more. I needed the ability to do. And one of my other brothers is there. Two of my brothers there are there now, and one of them really liked it. Really liked the setup. Relatively flexible hours. Not all that strict when you get to the office.
Yeah.
Not all that strict when you leave. Not much workload. And I think he really enjoyed that. And like, for his life, for his family, it was great. It is and was great. For me, it made me feel worse. And there's no way they could have known that. And I kind of struggled to articulate that, and ended up just almost having a break with my family when we moved to Tennessee over.
So how'd you end up there?
Here, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So part of that whole kind of breakdown period was my wife and I wanting to do something on our own. And we looked at a couple different business models and businesses, and it kind of landed on childcare because it was something that we wanted. We were talking before we got rolling here, the challenges in that industry, and something we were looking for was part-time care. My wife was not employed full-time, but she also did not want to be just sitting at home with our 2-year-old all day, every day. Like, a couple hours here and there would have been great. So we looked into some of these part-time daycares and landed on one called Kids Park. There was a franchise model, and we talked to them about, we sent out a couple different options of places we'd like to go, and we really liked Tennessee. I was here at Fort Campbell. I liked it. Megan went to school at University of Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of like the beginning of our relationship. Some of our first dates were right here in Nashville for
nice. That's
CMA
awesome.
Fest.
Yeah.
So we liked this area. Had a lot of good memories. Wanted to get back here, and so we landed on Murfreesboro because we wanted to be close to Nashville, but not in Nashville.
Yeah.
And moved up here, signed the paperwork to start the business, and drove here when the COVID lockdowns were happening.
Perfect timing. Yeah.
Oh, dude. So we sold a house, bought a house, and then moved here. When we drove here from Texas was at the time when they were talking about shutting down state borders. I don't know if you remember that, where there was like a brief period of time where they were like, we might not let traffic in or out of certain states. So like, we were leaving Texas thinking like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen when we get to the border. That was super cool. Like, that was the phase of shutdowns where like gas stations were closed. It's great timing, Chris.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my wife were talking about that, and it was like, man, the first 2 weeks it was a blast. Like, we just bought our house. We were in our house for about 3 weeks, and we had a St. Patty's Day party, housewarming party. COVID was like, we'll do a COVID party. So we didn't even have like our furniture or whatever. So we put like we put like caution tape on the door, but then people showed up in like also
hazmat stuff.
Oh no, St. Patty's Day gear. It wasn't even masking yet. It was Friday we had planned the party. I think it was Friday or Saturday was the party, and then Monday was lockdown, and they were like debating it, and like this was before this was like day one.
Yeah.
And so we were all partying, and then Monday come, they're like lockdown.
Yeah.
The world is on lockdown, national, you know. And I was weird because like I ended up having a job. I got a contract with Black Rifle Coffee to like make some commercials. So I drove through the city and Cinequip was still open. I was like, yeah, it's open. They're like, yeah, should pick up some gear. I was like, all right. So it was in Ghost Town. It's so weird. I was bombing doing 90 and you didn't even know it because
Such a weird time.
It was such a weird time. And we drank wine and way too, you know, everybody was like, you know, this is that running joke was like, yeah, let's like not start drinking till noon. You know, you're always like, it was like, yeah, everyone kept like adjusting because we were like burning through boxes of wine, you know, and everyone's like, hunker down, watch Netflix, do this, do that. And it was like, all right, cool. Like, you know, tell me twice.
We had to spend like 2 or 3 nights in Little Rock, Arkansas, because it was one of those deals where like we sold our house on Monday, but we couldn't move into the other house until Friday or something, right? So like there was a little gap there. So we got an Airbnb in Little Rock, which was about the halfway point from Austin to Nashville. And I remember like I tried to go out to get dinner for our family one night, and like I couldn't find restaurants that were open. And because it was so random, like all of a sudden now we're closed, you couldn't look it up online because their hours on like Google were like, no, we're open. And like everything was closed. It was such a weird.
Wow, yeah. It's wild time.
But anyways, we got here.
Yeah, got to Nashville. And we'll start evolving here into the old Preston Stewart's military or open source intelligence and military history stuff. So you get into Nashville. When do you start evolving? How's the business go? And then you start evolving into who we now know as Preston Stewart.
Yeah, so the business took a long time to stand up because we had to find a spot, we had to sign a lease, we had to build it out. So this is not a garage daycare center. We have a commercial facility. The sign out front, like all these things take a long time. So we moved here in, I guess that would have been probably beginning of April, March. I'm getting in trouble. Say March, feels about right.
Yeah.
The business didn't open for a full year after. Between the build out, the licensing, and all of that stuff, we opened a full year later, which means it was outside of COVID. There was still a little bit of masking going on, but we dodged that bullet in terms of opening. Dealt with some other issues, of course, but as that was going on, I had a couple months of working remote for my family still, but the agreement we had reached is my moving away meant that I would no longer be employed there. They did not want anybody doing remote work. I wasn't doing anything hardly at all, to be blunt. So my job ended there, and our business was not open yet, and it's that phase where all of our money is going into the business. We're building it. So I joined the reserve, shifted from the National Guard to the reserve, got that insurance taken care of, and 1 paycheck a month. Then I started driving DoorDash.
Yeah.
Every day for a lot of hours, like 10 plus hours a day.
We probably make a bank during the COVID years though, right? Or at least decent,
I guess. Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot worse now, but like I think it was like 500 a week or something I was trying to pull in.
It's not the word. I mean, during COVID.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
Also, the alternative was zero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was a time where like neither one of us could go get a job because most of our day was tied up with random phone calls with state licensing and with the construction team and with the architect and then with hiring and then with new contractors. Like most of our day was tied up doing that. And like regularly one of us would have to run back and forth to the center to make adjustments on things that were being built or being delivered. So we couldn't get like a job. So I was doing that to kind of make ends meet. At about that time started making content online just because I liked military history. Gary Vaynerchuk said, talk about things you like. And nobody was making military history on TikTok. So I thought I'll download this weird music app and do that. And some people watched it. And eventually they rolled out the Creator Fund. And I got like $4 one month. And I was like, this is wild. Like I'm just sitting here talking about things that I find interesting. I just got paid like $4.
You go buy myself a Red Bull.
This is insane. Yeah. I mean, dude, we were selling everything. I sold a bunch of my guns. It was in that phase where you're like, what do we not need anymore? Like look around, sell it to try to be able to keep paying the bills because all of our savings was now in this business that wasn't open yet. So yeah, started making content with just like, I liked it and had the back of mind idea that maybe, as Gary Vaynerchuk says, like maybe somebody will hire you because you do this kind of stuff. And yeah, people kept watching, and then more people watched.
Yeah.
And here we are.
So how was that? Again, it was kind of shifting into, and I like, it's fun. I love talking about this because I'm now in the space myself as a podcaster, show, whatever you want to call it. I keep like a channel because I feel like it should be, something more than just a podcast per se, so I call it a show. But it's also, I've been in that, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid, or you hit that monetization, and how do you promote and everything like that, and putting money into it as well. But what was that like when you're like, this is something I should really pursue? Because, it's like one thing to do it for fun every few days or something, but what was the kind of the moment that you were like, okay, I'm going to commit to this? Like, what I'm saying? Like, I know my commitment. I had a January, or record my episodes in December, literally built the studio, got all this equipment. You see kind of here, this is, I transported here, but, come January, that first episode goes on and I don't stop. I'm committing. What was your kind of commitment moment? Was there like, like say that $4, yeah, $4, you're like, okay, well, what else is there? And do I commit to, because I mean, it's just work, it's like the repetitions, the discipline. TikTok's a little bit different, but still, you obviously moved on to YouTube. What is that time like, and people that are creators, like vets that are creators, like myself, like, we'll talk after this, or even now, like the back end of all everything, stuff like that. Like, it's very interesting, especially when you're trying to do it and that information is not out there. Like, what do you, what was that moment that you're like, yeah, let's commit to Preston Stewart, military history, but OSINT type stuff?
There wasn't a moment. It was, there's been a lot of little things that have changed, but when I started doing it, I had a full-time job and was working from home, so I was just kind of doing it on the side. But I've never really been much of a user of social media. Didn't really have much of a presence prior to this. So I wasn't posting hardly at all, like a couple of pictures from college here and there on Facebook, right? But that drive from, I was trying to figure out like what the thing is I'm going to do, and I was listening to stuff like Gary Vaynerchuk, and he just kept hammering on people like post. And I realized like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really bad at this, so I probably need to do a lot of it to like try to learn anything. And the great thing about TikTok at that time was like, I didn't know anybody on that app. It's like, I don't know the first time somebody actually reached out and said, I've seen your stuff. But at that point, I had thousands of followers, like, because the way TikTok works, right? It doesn't feed it up to your mutual contacts that you went to high school with. It's just random people around the world. And for me, that was great because I was so nervous about what I was doing. But I was making multiple videos a day right out the gate. And I never had to make the decision of now this is going to be my job, because I didn't have a job. And I was just doing it. And all of a sudden I got, a little bit of money came in for this, and then a little money came in for this, and then a little money came in for this. And it was probably 2 years ago, where all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is my job now. So fortunately, I know a lot of people have to make that determination of when do I leave my full-time job, and will it be worth it to make this jump? But I was kind of starting at zero in a lot of ways.
So then what was the leap from TikTok then into YouTube?
TikTok kept taking my videos down, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's as simple. Yeah, they kept taking the videos down. There was a stretch on TikTok where if you said the H word, Hitler, you were done for. And then I had a stretch where even like kind of trying to hint at this German leader during World War II, he would get taken down.
Really?
Like, it's hard. They've gone through some weird moderation stuff. And
it's because they're like a Chinese app? Is that?
I think it was just challenges the moderation, honestly.
Yeah.
The AI behind it. And I was getting pissed off because I was putting a lot of time and energy into these videos, and they get taken down. And so like, well, I'm going to put them somewhere. So I started a YouTube channel and started just uploading the shorts there.
So like you were using shorts.
Yeah.
Because that hasn't been around long. So were you not say one of the first, but they were.
I thought I was late.
Oh yeah,
Shorts, yeah, because it was there was a period of time where like some of the first people would just like do anything and it'd get like 20 million views.
Yeah.
But I guess relatively early with shorts, 2021.
That's pretty early.
Yeah.
Because I'm like thinking back in my head, 2020. I was like, that's early. Like even your TikTok. Like it doesn't. When you get in the beginning of something, you're like, oh my god. Like you said, your TikTok. You were there in the beginning. Because I remember people talking about it. This new dance app. And people are like, oh, let's do it. And they're like, well, it's Chinese zone. They're taking all the info. People are like, whatever. Kids are just dancing and doing all that stuff. But it's like, you get in the front end of that stuff, you can do what you can do now. You can't do it now.
Right.
It takes so much more. And it's like, I don't say it's a crapshoot, but it is almost like, when people are like, oh, it takes time. But if you get in the beginning of an app, and obviously it's luck, I shouldn't say luck. It's not like you're like, what, this app's going to blow up and I'm going to be work out. It's still a risk, but at least in the beginning, like if you get at the beginning of something, you have a better chance of accelerating because no one's on it and everyone's like, okay, we need content in here.
And that was the move. Is easy over to YouTube then because it's just shorts, and I would make it on TikTok. That was the primary. I had the biggest following and all of that, and then I'd move it over and just upload it to YouTube. And eventually I had like 2 or 3 videos that just went viral on YouTube, and it was like, oh my god. And I remember in the span of a couple days, the account went from like 3,000 subscribers to like 25,000. YouTube hit me with a notice that they were going to have to scan the followers for any bots.
Really?
It was unusual activity.
It was just moved so fast. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And I immediately I was like, oh man, I'm sure like all of them are bots. But they ran the whole check, and there was not even a noticeable change. So
can you still do that manually? Because I'd love to do that for mine.
I didn't initially. I don't know how to do it. I just like if let's say the number was 25,000 when I got that notice. When I got a notice a day later that it was complete, the number was like 25,006. So it was like,
oh, okay.
Okay. So if they did remove any, at least wasn't like half of them. But I was only doing shorts for a while, and then just had some folks kind of talk about, hey, on YouTube, like it's got to be the long stuff. It's got to be longer. And this was around the time the war in Ukraine kicked off. I've seen a lot of people interested all of a sudden in current events.
Yeah.
Which is that, again, my major is international relations and terrorism studies. I like that stuff. This stuff I was focused on. So I started explaining like what surface-to-air missiles are and what air defense is and what artillery is, because at that time, early 2022, there's a huge audience of people like, what the hell is a tank or a javelin? How does a javelin work, right? And I started using YouTube to make those a little bit longer, and that's kind of when the long form started, which is now hands down the focus. But that was also the shift into talking about current events. I didn't think there was an audience for that. Saw it start to emerge when the war kicked off, and
yeah. I remember that. I remember all that, like the accounts that just blew up. I mean, we saw the accounts blow up during the Afghan evac. That's kind of like that. That was the infancy, and then the war in Ukraine solidified it. Yeah, because those accounts were the ones that everyone relied on for the evac for now Ukraine. So the year going back, so those OSINT accounts were just blowing up. Twitter, it was like you were trying to find information, resharing what's going on, and then it just exploded.
I also had dabbled around in the military history idea of doing like a day-by-day history of like each day put out a video and kind of like reporting.
Yeah.
Like this is September 17th, 1939. Here's what happened overnight. Yeah. Like real-time reporting of the war. And I've always thought how fascinating it would be to like, what was it like living? What was June 4th, 1944 like in America? Where you're like, I think there's an invasion coming. I think they're getting ready to do something over there. Like, or how about the 8th? Like 2 days after the boys landed on the beaches, like what was the information flow like? And what were the conversations people were having? And so when a big war kicked off that a lot of people were interested in keeping up with, I thought, this is that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which the Ukraine changed everything in a lot of ways and stuff like that. I mean, it's insane. So you when you're doing your long form and stuff like that, how often are you posting, and like how do you pick and choose? Because now we are into Preston Stewart, years. I mean, that growth, like that's what did it just expand? I mean, like I said, what that was your biggest leap was that 25,000, or again too. I mean, you're committing, I've been through it myself. When you monetize, you're making money off of these clips and things are moving along. What was the point then, or at what point were you like, yes, this is my full-time job? Like, I'm making enough money, supporting a family. You're putting it's a lot of effort. I do 2 podcasts a month, and I have a full-time job as a creative director, but it's like, it's within my realm, but it's also like that bandwidth starts going away. You know what I mean? So clearly, I mean, you're doing 2 videos a day. So what's, what point you're like, this is it. Yes, this is my job. This is what I do.
I mean, it has been for a while, to be honest. Like, even when there wasn't money coming in and I didn't realize that it could be a career, it was still all consuming. Like, when I was driving DoorDash, I would wake up early before our daughter got up and try to record, I called it a podcast, but it was like a 3-minute story from some time in military history, and try to record a couple quick TikToks to post throughout the day. And then I would go drive DoorDash until early or late afternoon, early evening, and then come back and try to knock out a few more before I went to bed. So it was full-time then. It just wasn't resulting in anything other than like people would see it, and that was always really, really cool. But yeah, 2 years ago was probably the mark where for the first time we made enough money doing this to where like we were comfortable, and it was like, oh, that's the thing. Or scrounging to get by. But in terms of the selection, that's something I struggle with every day, because they're always concerned about bias with information, and where is the bias and what is it, and we all have it in some way, shape, or form. That's one that I don't know how to do away with. Like, it's an inherent part of this, is choosing what you're going to cover and what you're not going to cover. So today, for instance, I made a video about Ukraine. I talked about the dang Russians went into a pipe again near Kupiansk.
I've just
wild.
Yeah,
they did it again. Some statements that Trump made about tariffs and sanctions for China, and then the drones fired into Poland. And I covered those 3 things. Those might not be the most important 3 things that happened. I think they are, but it's trying to find this balance of like, what is the audience interested in, what will perform well, to be honest, but also is important. And I feel like if you can't go all in on any one of those, or it won't work. Like, there's a reason that some of the best think tanks out there with incredible information, RUSI is a great one. I don't even know if they have a YouTube channel, but if they do, it probably sucks and nobody watches it. And I don't even know that it exists, because they're putting out such important information, and they're probably putting it out in a really bad way. So it's like trying to bridge all of these things together. And in that process, there's key stories that I don't cover, or things I gloss over that maybe I should spend more time on. That's a challenge. And I think there's a degree of audience trust there of, as long as you're trying your best and genuinely like not trying to hide something or present things in a skewed way, I think everybody kind of understands that. But
yeah. And how do you, like I said, you're picking and choosing? Do you have, I mean, it's a lot of information coming in. What do you use for sources? Like, are you pulling from social media? Do you have people that are helping you? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it seems like it's a lot of stuff. So it's kind of like, even for myself, I'm like, okay, well, one question I would ask, like, who do you use? Because I would just know those people, or even your sources, like websites. Do you use social accounts? How do you keep up with whatever?
So the way I look at it is I'm presenting information to an audience that is trying to get this information before it makes it to traditional media. So before it goes into New York Times, Reuters, whatever it might be. So to do that, it's usually hard to lean on traditional news outlets, because they tend to be a little later. It's generally hitting first on places like Twitter and Telegram. And there's a number of different analysts out there that publish information there, and you can use different accounts to kind of piece together what may or may not have happened. So today's story about the tunnel, for instance, there are about 6 or 7 different Russian accounts talking about it, but they all cited the same Ukrainian account. So I just straight read that. Hey, as reported by Deep State Map. And I read through that because it's kind of the only source I can find. I try really hard to only use information that is publicly available, and make the shift when I say, like, this is a personal opinion, or here's what I think. What that has meant is I'm very fortunate. A lot of people have reached out with tips or hints or stories. I don't use that. Partially, I don't have the means to verify it. If somebody reaches out and says, I am a Ukrainian soldier, we are on the offensive, we've moved to this point in the map, I have no way to verify that information. So what good does it do if I can't tell who the source is or have any verification of it? I don't like that. It's too much trust me, so I tend to not do that. When it gets into subjects that I don't know a lot about, I'm trying to do more interviews.
Yeah.
So just this last week, did an interview with an actual OSINT company talking about how they found a Russian location based off of a video.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably tell that story, but I love being able to just talk to the guy. And now he's a source in a way, right?
Yeah.
But he's on camera. I'm asking him questions. We're doing an interview. But the same thing with a lot of different subjects. The source isn't so much like, can you give me some information? It's I'm going to turn the camera on, let's talk for 20 minutes. And that becomes the story then.
Yeah. So what's your workflow then? And like I said, you're picking out, like, so you start your day. Where do you go? Like I said, the different sources you're going to. What you record, like you create your script, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you on Telegram or you on, you know, like, okay, here. Go to your computer, write the script, shoot, post, because you are doing twice. I mean, that's like
1 to 2 a day.
You 1 to 2 a day. I mean, it's a lot, man. Like
it's nonstop.
It's nonstop. I mean, it really is. I mean, I mean, you know, I always think about like just doing this type of stuff. Like I have my workflow, but it sucks up your time. Obviously, you're doing it full time, but 1 to 2 days is like pretty challenging, especially when it comes to OSINT. Like just make sure you're staying up with current events and stuff like that.
Now, one thing I want to mention on the OSINT front is I don't really consider myself in that realm. I think of myself more as a commentator, or communicator broadly. I leverage a lot of OSINT accounts and try to present their work. Not on their behalf, but you know, here's his account, here's Ethan's account, go follow him here, here's where it came from, and showing the work, because a lot of those guys are incredible.
Yeah.
For any number of reasons, they're not making videos about it. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they can't, maybe they're not good on camera, maybe they can't, maybe they write things better than they articulate. I don't know. But there's a funnel there of just like, hey, these are 16 really good accounts. I'm going to tell you their analysis because I quite frankly think they're all smarter than me and know more than me. We're just going to walk through it and I'll add a little commentary. But anyways, in terms of the workflow, first thing in the morning, get up about 2 hours before I got to take the kid to school, and it's running through what happened last night, anything major, to get an idea of what my stories might look like for the day. Sometimes it's pretty clear. You know, we've woken up some mornings and Ukraine has launched drones inside of Russia and taken out half their nuclear bomber fleet. It's like, cool, that is going to be the story today.
Yeah.
Other times it's kind of piecing things together and try to identify like what things can be brought up. Today's video is 3 different stories. So what I'll do is go back and forth between Twitter and Telegram. They'll have both screens up and just kind of scrolling through to see what stands out. And it's that process of what makes for an interesting story, what is getting attention that people are interested in, and what can I talk about. I will copy and paste as many direct quotes as possible into a Word document and then build a script around those quotes. So what I try to do is provide primary sources or play videos. This is what this person says, and I'll fill the gaps with explaining what you just heard, what you're about to hear, or how it plays in the bigger picture. So that's kind of the script. The script ends up almost exclusively being direct quotes, and then I just go in between. Usually try to record the first video and have it up by noon. And then if there is, and this is where it's kind of a, you know, sometimes there's enough to make another, other times there's not. And you just start piecing together like all these different quotes, and eventually you're like, that's a video. There's enough here, I can make it. And then kids home from school, try to get a gym session in there. We got a garage gym, so I don't have to go too far.
That's it, yeah.
Dinner, and then in front of the TV, I have my laptop, and I'm on Twitter looking to see what happens overnight. Occasionally, I jump up at night and make a quick video. It's very rare. But most of the time, it's just bookmarking different things to say, got it. And then in the morning, that process starts again.
Nice. That's all. I mean, it's cool to hear that process. Like
it's a flow.
Yeah, it's a flow. And you're editing everything yourself, correct? Like yeah. Because I know guys that edit. You know, people do their reels or their podcasts or what you know, or I mean, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, but it's. I understand. Like my stuff, this stuff gets delayed, so it's like, okay, cool. Podcast can be done shown 2-3 weeks later. Someone else can obviously work on it, do clips, reels, whatever. But when you're doing something like yours, that turnaround time has to be that minute, that hour.
The challenge I've had with that is to get the turnaround correct, at least within 24 hours, you essentially have to have somebody on staff doing those edits for you. That's not cheap.
No.
Essentially having a dedicated person ready to go at all times. Like as soon as I finish, it's like, bro, right now, I don't care what you're doing, drop it. This is the thing. But then the overlays is something I've had a challenge with, adding B-roll and pictures and screenshots. Like, it sounds simple, or sounds like not a big deal, but I did a video about Afghanistan, sent it off to some editors, and they showed pictures of Russian MLRS systems when I said Taliban rocket launches. And like, I don't know, I'm sure there's people that'd be like, whatever, it's a rocket. But most of the people that are watching your videos and that are watching mine say, what the hell was that? That was a Russian, grad firing in Ukraine, and he's trying to present this like the Taliban attacking an American outpost at 07. It's like, well, okay, now I got to go back to the guy and make this edit and try to explain, how do I explain that? That's the wrong rocket launcher. But for you or I putting that clip in, it's like that.
Yeah, you hunt it down, find it, go. Yeah.
I'm not sifting through wheeled rocket launchers and talk about the Taliban. So, I don't know. I haven't found the best solution there yet because it is taking a lot of my time. But right now it is just me.
I think we talked about this before on the 9 Line podcast. What editor do you use?
Oh, Movavi.
Yeah.
You are. Yeah. See, I don't even share that with people because they laugh at me.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
The 2021 version.
Yeah.
They've upgraded it since 2025.
Like,
and I was like, can't do that.
Yeah.
It's 4 years old, man.
Yeah, it's like you have it. It does what it needs to do. Don't mess with it.
I had to get a new version on a recent computer. Like I had to like go to some scammy Russian pirate site to be able to download the 2021 software. You go to their main site, they're like, dude, we don't offer that anymore.
Yeah. You're like calling them like, I need the 2021. Give it to me. Yeah. That's awesome though. Yeah, you told me. I was like, I don't even know where you'd find that. Like, that's not even, I thought you'd use like Vegas or something. Like there's 3 now. Avid is for professional, like Hollywood. DaVinci Resolve is where everyone's shifting to. Premiere is what I use, which is a vast majority of what people are doing. And then there was this one program 10 years ago called Vegas, and I don't even know if it's in existence anymore. So I was kind of like, what do you use it? And you were like, Movavi or whatever. I'm like, what?
Movavi. It's Movavi. Get it right,
yeah. It's like, or even, do they even do Max, or was it iMovie? iMovie's still a thing, isn't it?
I think so.
Are you
I don't
using
know.
PC?
I'm a PC.
Oh, okay, PC. Okay, I switched back to Mac, so I'm a happy camper now.
All right.
Because I was PC for a while, but I was like, okay, I switched to Mac years ago. But then I was juggling between Mac and PC, and that was becoming a real pain in the ass. And about a month ago, I got the new iMac, and now it's the new Mac Mini, and it's flying compared to like my $10,000 rig from 5 years ago and a $1,500 Mac Mini. Just blowing it out of the water.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's 5 years. I mean, and it's Apple 5 years. I mean, that's light years ahead.
Like 20 human years.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it really is. And then I just bought my new, I just needed my laptop crapped out like from 6 years ago. So then I was like, I went in and knew the specs because I had just been working with Mac Mini. It was blowing my mind. I was like, well, I don't need to spend $4,000. I can just spend $1,700 on this iMac Pro baseline, and it's flying. So I'm like, that's all I need to do, So, but yeah, it's interesting to see like that type of workflow, especially if you're, if you're pulling clips or you're doing whatever. We're mutual friend Nick Laidlaw, about how he posts and he's trying to get back onto the YouTube train a little bit more.
The answer for Nick is more. Do more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that love what he does, understandably so.
Oh no, I'm awesome. Like, dude, I had him over. I'm like, he spent the night. We like, I'm
do more, Nick.
More, yeah.
More people want more of it. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. He's like, oh, I know. I'm like, dude, man, he's getting there. He's like, he's about this close to.
All right, I'll add some peer pressure.
I feel bad for that. I mean, we can kind of discuss this too. Talk about the social media OSINT community. I mean, I consider you OSINT. I know you're not. You're Commentator, but like I go to Preston Stewart for my open source intelligence, or or Project Leaflet, Northern Provisions, whatever. But it is seeing. I have pushed everybody. I always push for YouTube. I'm not even a TikTok guy. I don't know people make money on TikTok. I know it's but Instagram seems like a lot of people. It's a great way to spread information very quickly. So is X. I'm thinking about getting on, but like Instagram, I don't put effort into because like I've seen like Chris's account, Nick's account, and they're getting, the impressions are really good for the sizes, and that's just, there's no payout. And like Northern Provisions and like they're shutting down. Everyone knows like what they're going because they're not making. There's no money coming in, and it's like, and it's to me it's invaluable. And everyone's like, well, how do you make money? And part of me is like, go to YouTube, like start making shorts, like start figuring a way to do something with YouTube. I don't know, like I know it's hard by all means, but sometimes maybe I don't know, but I agree with you. Sometimes people just don't want to be on YouTube. How do you translate that stuff
different,
to, like, because it's a lot of reposting, it's moving, but it's not generating income. It's not, it's like it's just too saturated, or it's just, you're not an influencer or like a true influencer. You have 1 million followers or something, but even guys that we know have 300,000-400,000. It's like, that doesn't translate into cash flow, or it doesn't even translate into crossing platforms. Yeah, going from Instagram to YouTube, like, oh well, if I post about this, it's like good luck,
Yeah.
But I always say, at least in my experience, YouTube seems like it's still a great way, I don't know, to scale, I guess, in the social media world, depending on what you're doing. But I feel like guys are seeing more success on YouTube in the way it monetizes and pays out and whatnot. Yeah, Nick's on Facebook, and he says that crushes though as well.
Yeah, and I've never had any success over on Facebook.
Yeah, are you? So do you have a decent page going? Or,
No.
like, I don't even know.
No. I it's one of those where like I stood it up, tried to cross post over there for a while, and nothing hit. I say a video would get 50,000 views on TikTok and 40,000 views on Instagram, and it'd get 2 on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And like I never really promoted it, but also like it wouldn't upload. I couldn't get things to upload over there, and like I don't know. It's just, you know what? I've enough other things going on.
Yeah.
Focus on the other things.
I was gonna say it's working.
Yeah, focus on the things that are working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I agree with like spreading across, because people are like, the Instagram is like, like getting posts out or doing whatever. You're just like, dude, it's just, and there's no result from it. Like maybe you'll get a few views. So it's like, yeah, it's good to make sure you got a few reels out on Instagram, but it's sucking up my time where I'm like, all right, man, as long as I get a few out, that's cool over this week. But the important thing is making sure the podcast goes up on the channel, because the channel's growing. So you are going to watch it. YouTube will throw it into the algorithm, and it's the second largest search engine in the world, owned by the biggest search engine in the world, Google. So the most eyes are just going to be like, because you almost would hope it would do that. Be like, well, this guy's got, well, maybe that's a little different with like 1 million subs or 1 million followers on like Instagram, but like, people with 200,000-300,000 accounts, 300K, it kind of really translates. You would think, you're like, oh, this will be great.
Does not.
Not at all. Like, so
it's very different.
Yeah, 1,000 people are seeing that story. 1,000 people are not going to that clicking that link and going to the YouTube show.
It's a different audience. I found.
Yeah.
I cover the same subjects on all platforms, sometimes in a little different formats. Like obviously TikTok's gonna be shorter than YouTube, but it's different people. Like I will regularly have somebody on one of those platforms be like, I just came across your YouTube channel. And they're like, I only follow you on Instagram or on X. They'll be like, wait a minute, you're here? I thought you were only on TikTok. And it's just different audiences consume information differently in different places. I think I do.
Yeah.
Like my TikTok algorithm is like golf and cooking.
Yeah.
On X, it is exclusively war, conflict, and politics.
Yeah.
Like it's very different. I go to different platforms for different things, and I think a lot of people probably do the same.
No, I agree with you. I mean, like I'm the same way too. Like my ex is all political. Like it's very, that's maybe some conflict or whatever. Instagram is very much more better curated, where it's like political, war, filmmaking. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's actually more of what I like to do. Yeah, and same with you. Well, YouTube is kind of the same way. Not as much. Well, I shouldn't say political, but it's definitely much more entertainment driven, podcast driven for YouTube.
Sure.
And I mean, it's So then, like I said, how do it's kind of like in current events type stuff. Is there anything like, like the Ukraine war? I mean, obviously you were very successful, over 900,000 subscribers. Does Ukraine hit well? Is it like, or is it just the type of information coming from Ukraine? You know what I'm saying? Like those stories, can you kind of tell this one's going to do well compared to others? You know what I mean? Like, I got lucky. I managed to get Brent on the podcast from Anti-Hero podcast. The Tim Kennedy stuff hit.
Oh.
Dude, and I was like, I even let them have the weekend. I was like, you know what? I didn't, I'm going to let Valhalla VFT or Nate, Nate's over there. Those guys, I'll let them have the weekend, but I'm going to post, because it was important to me to talk about that with Brent. And obviously, so we posted that. I was like, I'm going to do mine on Monday, whatever. And obviously it just, and you could kind of predict that I was like, oh, I'll probably get like a few thousand at least, maybe 10,000 if I'm lucky. And it just skyrocketed. Can you kind of like, do you feel that when you post like, hey, this subject's probably going to hit better than others? Or you said you want to shift in that direction because the views to obviously generate revenue, generate interest, but it's also like there's also maybe news that you want people to hear, but you don't think is going to, slap or, as the youth say, or you think it's going to hit as much, but you do want to get it out. It's important.
That's one of the reasons I started making more a video a day and then a couple of videos a day is there would be, maybe something major happen in Ukraine and something also major happen in Israel. And like what I have found is those audiences are different. I have a lot of, I have viewers that just like straight up will watch, they're only tuning in about Ukraine. Others that are only tuning in about the Middle East. Others that are only looking at, the India, Pakistan, or they're just not interested in the other stuff. Like it's just how we are as people. So that's why I started doing multiple videos, kind of give myself the opportunity to like, you don't have to decide between one of these. You can hit both of them. And generally speaking, it's going to a different, there is some overlap, no doubt. Yeah. But it also is kind of a different audience.
Really?
So I've found that.
You see that like in your metrics or something like that? Or your
reactions to videos, comments from videos, DMs, things like that, just noticing. I've had multiple people say like, I just don't watch anything that you put out about Israel, but everything about Ukraine and vice versa. It's fine. For instance, I have a pretty heavy European audience. Of course, they're very interested in what's happening in Ukraine. Most of them just don't really care all that much about what's happening in Israel and Gaza. Outside of like some portions of the Middle East and the United States, there's just not a lot of people that are focused on that day in and day out. So in terms of the biggest thing to make for a big video is a major event, to be blunt. Like when the U.S. bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities, I knew that video was going to go. Like unless I just tripped over myself the entire time. When we blew up the cartel boat a week and a half ago or something, I knew that video was going to go. It's just a matter of how far. Outside of that, I would say, generally speaking, Middle East content is low. The lowest is DoD content. When I say like, here's what happened in the DoD over the course of the last week, or even like on the southern border, that's the lowest.
Really?
Yeah.
Even if it was like changing the Department of War.
I didn't even cover that.
Yeah, you cover it. Yeah.
But like that kind of stuff, I've done that kind of stuff before. That's the lowest. Every single time. One step above that is Middle East. Especially Israel and Gaza.
Is that the algorithm, do you think? I don't want to say like suppression, like, because it's like the boogeyman, but it's like, I've heard people kind of that discussion, but again, it's like in the ether.
I don't know. I don't know that I can. I don't know that I can blame it necessarily. Honestly, there's fewer people interested in that conflict than others. Like I just, when you look at some of the other ones, India, Pakistan, it goes off. Well, there's huge countries. Then I got a lot of viewership from those countries, and then Ukraine. You got all of Europe looking at this. A lot of English speakers in Europe and in Ukraine looking at that, on top of a lot of people in the U.S. So I think part of it is, I think the interested audience is not the same between those two. And then, so the top is just like some major news story that happens. The bottom is probably easier to describe those two. The bottom is any like I've had reporters on that are like Pentagon reporters, bombs. There's just, which is a little frustrating, because a part of me would like to spend more time covering like DOD or Department of War, not domestic issues, but more like what's going on at DOD. Like a new budget came through and a new proposal went out and promotions, but that just doesn't hit.
Is there any is there stuff like that you're kind of, I don't say emotionally involved in, because it was like fun talk with Nick, like, we're the same way. Like I went to Ukraine, did the documentaries out there in the invasion. Nick's gone in, he's capturing those stories. Is there like, something that's a little more, I don't say close to your heart, but like something that you do care to, have a strong opinion on, or something like that? Like, is Ukraine one of them? Stuff like that. Is there, guys that reach out to you for their stories, or, like I said, that are a little bit more emotionally invested into? Is there specifics that you're like, I'm going to cover this the way, I'm going to give my opinion on it. You know, you like say, I would say you're going to try to be unbiased, but you're like, clearly there's some bias to what you're doing.
Yeah, Ukraine for me is the one. Well, Ukraine and Israel in a sense, in terms of I know there's a bias there. When it comes to like India, Pakistan, I don't particularly care or have a dog in the fight. Like, it was really interesting to cover like what happens over the course of these couple days. I'm not prioritizing one storyline over the other. I'm just like diving in, like, here's what we know. Those videos do well. It's also nice early in conflicts when it hasn't been politicized yet and we don't know like which side are we on? What's the Democrat side or Republican side? How can I blame this on Trump/Biden? Or like, like people are just interested in information, which is a great period of time.
Yeah, like Nick was like, "Hey, you want to go to India?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And then he's like, it's talking about, he's like, I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'd love to go to Pakistan as well. But I was like, he's like, well, the Indians, they kind of want. He knew like the general there, and
of course he does.
Yeah, he does. He's like, and they wanted him to come over. He goes, they need propaganda. I was like, I'll propagandize all day for India. Like, I was like, he's like, yeah, we can go on like towards the front line, and I was like, can you be a general? Because it's like, you know, that type of culture. Like we're with the Afghans, they're in the same region, same thing. They're looking for propaganda, and they're looking for like positive and also like cool stuff happening. Like the Indians are doing awesome military operations, right? I was like, we're gonna get access to like all the artillery going off, all the air. I mean, you know, it'd be like
all the good stuff.
We're gonna be escorted by a general and his staff. Like, you think they're gonna, you know, we can get it. I'm sure we can get close to the front and do whatever, you know. So I was actually I'm really excited to like, well, let's go check out the Indians. Like, hey man, you got a cool hookup, you know. Well, I'm sorry, get that back in. You know, you got a cool hookup. Like, that'd be awesome. Just run around India, blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
And seeing this, like, you know, I don't know, not say show of force, but what do you call it? Dog and pony show. You know, for the American journalists coming over, I was like, dude, I'll do it. That sounds awesome. But yeah, like I said, there's no dog in the fight. But I'm sure people are like, Pakistan and India. Like, what? Yeah. I think a lot of people, I think, when it comes to that type of stuff, like, they don't know that Pakistan and India have been at each other's throats for years. You know, they've almost gone nuclear. You know, like, they're both nuclear powers, correct? Yeah. So it's like they're fighting over Peshawar Valley or whatever that contention is, or whatever. Is it Peshawar?
I want to say Panjshir, and it's not Panjshir. That's Afghanistan.
I think it's Peshawar. Maybe I'm wrong. Kashmir.
We can get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, you know, whatever. We'll just run YouTube channels. It's all good. That's awesome. So yeah, man, I mean, like, so have you seen, like, I know you don't quite cover too much domestically, but like, even with like what's going on, like, are you kind of tracking, even like, you have the war stuff going on, are you tracking a little bit of the politics too? Like, say the UK, all this stuff's going on. Obviously there's, you know, the certain reporting, there's a lot of protests going on. I was telling my wife, it was like before I got here, like Charlie Kirk's assassination, murder, like the UK is taking up that mantle. You know, because they've already had the protests, that's like apparently a powder keg going on a little bit over there, and now it's taken off, and they're I guess they had like 2 to 3 million protesters in the streets, you know, and then, you know, with the ban. So you're seeing like the U.S. politics, obviously. Well, UK and U.S. are obviously, their politics are gonna meld a lot. But have you covered some of that stuff, or that's something that like your audience is, you know, like people are kind of coming to you for that, or you think that's more like a political commentary? You know what I'm saying? Like, your political commentaries, and like, I feel like you're different. Like, you're like OSINT, or well, I know you're, but like OSINT commentary, war political commentary.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of OSINT, you know.
Yeah. So pretty. My personal approach here is, I think that national security focused is kind of big picture what I try to look at.
Okay. Yeah.
And in a perfect world, national security would not be a partisan issue. Unfortunately, it is. But national security is inherently political.
Yeah.
War and conflict is inherently political.
Oh yeah.
I cannot be apolitical. It would be a disservice to not look at anything political. I'd be missing at least half of the story for all of these different things. That said, I do think we can approach this stuff in a nonpartisan manner, and probably do a better job of approaching it in a nonpartisan manner. And it's probably better for us in terms of pure national security if partisan politics are not playing a role in some of this stuff. If we're only looking at what is good for the country, not what is good for one party or one individual or another. So I do my best to try to stay nonpartisan. I'm sure for some people I'm doing a good job. For others, I don't. I've seen good and bad on both sides of the aisle for quite a while now. I do have personal opinions. I have personal political opinions. I try to leave those out.
Yeah.
It's funny how some of these things have changed, like the support for Ukraine you mentioned a minute ago. Like, man, a few years ago, that would have been a hardcore Republican stance.
Yeah.
Right now, it's viewed more as a left-leaning stance.
Yeah.
It's like, where the hell did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that. Like, I remember when I was in Ukraine before the election, like they were, they liked Trump more, but they knew that Biden was giving the weapons, so they were kind of like, what's Trump going to do?
Yeah.
Because it's like, and look, I'm the same way. Like, I think that's one of the things too. I think people talk about, it's like, that was kind of weird. Like when I went over and you're seeing this isolationist part of the Republican Party and you see it in the infighting, but that is a geopolitical thing. Like when, they're talking about bombing in Yemen, the Houthis, and that signal chat got leaked. And that was like, you did see J.D. Vance, who is, even if he's a Marine, served in Iraq, he's very isolationist. And you see Pete Hegseth, who's kind of like us guys are like infantry dude. I don't know if he was infantry, but he was
go bomb him, right?
He's like, we're going hard. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we're gonna, it's very much like, yes, we are gonna intervene. Like, yeah, the Europeans can take care of it, but they won't. So someone has to do it, so it's kind of that mentality. And Ukraine is definitely one of them. Yeah, I remember people like, we don't need to be involved. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we've been fighting the Russians for like 60 years in the Cold War. We have an opportunity to fund the Ukrainians.
This is it. This is the thing.
It. And there's no bloodshed. And also we're getting rid of our own weapons, and we're getting to see. Like, there's guys that have like what we dreamed of as infantry dudes. Like they have like 10 tank kills, 20 tank kills, like mowing dudes down. Like this is the infantryman's like dream. And we're not doing it. We're not obviously spending the blood, but yeah, it's a little bit. I would say it's a little bit of treasure. We're handing them the weapons and we're restocking. I was like, and when you were already mad about I was thinking about, it's funny, like my little rant, because obviously I'm very much more invested in the Ukraine. But it's like people are like, well, we need to keep our own stocks or whatever. I was like, you hated the military-industrial complex 10 minutes ago, and now you want to.
The problem is
we need to hold on to it. Well, we need to hold on to weapons. It's like, no, it's old. We gotta get rid of it. Like let's and it's like, it's not costing us anything. And it's been very, very successful for them. And this is and the whole NATO stuff. Everyone's like, well, the encroach. It's like the excuses that come out for Russia, and so that we don't get involved. It's like, dude, none of them are valid. Like there's 5 NATO countries on the border that are already there. It's like, oh, you talk about encroachment. Also, Lithuania, because I was a Minnesota National Guard. Lithuania, we send over, like we do, like that's our sister company from Minnesota. Cool. So I never went. I always wanted to, but we send sergeant majors and we send the battle NCOs over just to do like left seat, right seat, kind of see what's going on. The only reason Lithuania is its own country right now is because they are NATO. You thought Ukraine is Russia would run through Lithuania in less than 24 hours. 24 hours. I mean, it's tiny. They have cyber attacks all the time. They won't hold their own. They're too small. Ukraine is it's pretty big country within Europe. It's like the second largest or something like that. It's pretty big.
I think it's the largest.
The largest beyond Russia. Yeah, in Europe. So you're thinking space-wise, and and it's like, dude, like, well, that's not even like good argument. So, it is kind of weird. Like, I agree with you. Like, is that weird? But then it's like Israel pops off and everyone's like, well, which I'm very much, there's not denying my bias. He's like, I'm all for it. But you see like the IDF take off in Israel, and then those same people are like, well, all right, now we need to give Israel everything you need, So it's like, all right, dude, what do you, because my buddy Travis, he's like, well, we don't need to be intervening or helping with Ukraine. I was like, well, why do we help Israel? Like, I'm pro-Israel, but like, why do we help them? And he's like, yeah, good point. I'm like, yeah, because that's not, dude, it's the same thing. Like, so obviously there's whatever. So he recognizes, yeah, I get it. It's like, it's say a flaw in your argument, but it's not consistent, So, but what's your opinions, Preston Stewart? I'm just kidding.
Well, I was going to say you were asking about the politics of other countries. I tend to not get too far into it. Like the way that I approach politics in the videos is I feel like I have a pretty good idea of right versus left on a lot of these issues. Sometimes it's as easy as presenting a Republican senator and a Democratic senator. Other times it's a little more nuanced, maybe for some people. I think you and I would understand that like Fox News tends to be a right-leaning source and MSNBC tends to be a left-leaning source. And I can try to present those. I don't know how that dynamic looks in other countries.
Yeah.
So while I understand politics plays a significant role in Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Syria, all these other places, I don't know those little things. Like, is Reuters, Associated Press pretty much calls balls and strikes.
Yeah.
But the New York Times opinion section is probably going to lean left, whereas the Wall Street Journal opinion section is probably going to lean right. I feel like that helps with my reporting in the United States around national security issues. Total blind spot for me in other countries. So I generally try to, as best possible, avoid like the political aspect there. I do try to present like the heads of state.
Yeah.
Or very senior officials, what they're doing. But that next level down is something I'm not super comfortable with.
Yeah. And so kind of like even with your reporting stuff or your commentating, what's your, I guess your going back to your being an officer, being whatever, what is your, like, not even like say hard opinions, but what's your thoughts and opinions on, say, Russia, Ukraine? How does that end? Yeah, like get your own personal, I'm saying, like what's your thoughts? Like, you think that Ukraine's going to pull it out? You think they're going to give up ground? It seems like Zelensky is, I would say, I mean, him and Trump are talking a lot more friendly now. They're talking about sanctions, like the moves that are happening, drones going into Poland. You could tell they were talking about, I think they issued Article 4, which I don't know what that means. They're getting everyone together and they're going to discuss it. You could tell they didn't want to blow it up to Article 5 clearly, because even though it is a broach of multiple, I think they even hit a house and blew it up, like some part of it or something like that. But it's also like you could tell people are treading lightly. They don't want to start a war over 5 or 6 loose Shahed drones, but at the same point, Russia's encroaching. So what's your thoughts on that? I mean, like in general, like as a tactician, as an your opinion tactician, etc.
I think we're going to see Russia continue to advance slowly, as they have been for at least the last year. It's costly and it's slow, but they are moving forward. I don't see any reason that that's going to stop. Russia has the manpower and the equipment to continue fighting the way they are. Ukraine has the equipment and the manpower to continue repelling Russia at this same rate. There's no indication there's going to be some serious breakthrough and the Ukrainian lines are going to collapse. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I would expect the United States backs out even further. Not just from Ukraine, but probably from NATO and from Europe as a whole. That seems to be the path we're on. I think the differentiator here is whether or not Europe really steps up. So I wish, as an American, that we were right alongside them and really helping to do some of this stuff. That's not going to be, I don't think that's going to be the case. When I talk about Europe stepping up, the differentiator here is going to be, do they put more air defense assets into, say, Western Ukraine? Right now they're talking about enforcing a very strict no-fly zone in eastern Poland to interdict any future Russian drones that permeate NATO airspace. Does Europe send more weapons? Does Europe layer more sanctions? Europe, if we're going to see any change in a positive direction for Ukraine, I'm pretty confident that it's going to be on Europe. Ukraine can hold for the foreseeable future. But if they want to achieve some sort of lasting peace in any sort of just fashion, I think the ball is in Europe's court right now, unfortunately.
What do you think of, and I'm divided on that, like it should be in their court, but we should also be pumping, because that's the like double-edged sword of it. It's like, do we do the hard work for them and they continue on the way they've been continuing on, or do you actually kind of kick them in the balls and get them like, hey, this is your problem, But hasn't there been some development that though is like Germany? They've been at, the memes are going around. Germany stepping up their spending. Poland. I mean, clearly Poland's like, yeah, man, we're doing it. Like we're trying to go as fast as we can. Like you feel like Poland's feeling it. Some of the other countries. I think France at some point. I've heard some rumors about them amplifying their defense budgets and preparing for war as a very vague thing. But you're like, okay, well that's, they're trying to muster that up, but against the Russians, it's kind of, I don't know. I feel like that thing of some of the developments in Ukraine might be working in their favor with the new long-range cruise missiles. I mean, I was talking with Nick about this, and obviously things can be different here in the next. Things could look completely different in the next 6 months to a year if Ukraine is dropping crap loads of cruise missiles into Moscow. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and he brought it up, which was when Moscow and St. Petersburg start feeling the war, that's when the pressure gets on Putin, because they're just taking everybody from the outskirts. So if you start popping that bubble a little bit, that's what I'm wondering. Like with Ukraine, it's like I said, they're holding slow. You know, again, it's costing Russia a lot of manpower and a lot of fortune, and like for very little ground. But that's their tactic. But at the same point, like I feel like it eventually catches up with them. I mean, I feel like it's the meat grinder that's really a meat grinder. You know, it's not Chechnya. This isn't Afghanistan in the 80s. This is Ukraine 2025, and it's a meat grinder. You know, it's
the big outstanding item to me is security guarantees. That's where it comes down. So Ukraine can make this incredibly painful for Russia, no doubt. I have doubts that they can make it by themselves so painful for Russia that Russia gives back territory and walks back Russian territory. Yeah. It's very hard for me to see that scenario. But again, they can bleed Russia pretty dry over the next couple of years, as is. The big question is security guarantees. So if Ukraine takes the fight to Moscow and to St. Petersburg, what does Russia do in return? And they have a lot at their disposal in terms of the quantity of munitions they're turning out. And that could get worse and worse for Ukraine. So who's going to back up Ukraine? Who's going to be the one to put their foot down and say, you have to enforce this ceasefire line. You cannot move further into Ukraine. And I think there's a real question right now as to whether or not the United States will be a part of that. So a question that Russia is going to be wondering is, what does that backstop look like for Ukraine? If let's say there's a ceasefire, who's going to enforce it? And we don't know yet. Does Russia take a ceasefire enforced by Poland seriously? What about Poland and France? What about France and the UK? What about just the UK? I think no doubt if it was a ceasefire enforced by NATO, they would take it seriously. What about NATO without the United States?
That's a joke, yeah. Or it starts turning into like...
It becomes a different conversation, and I think that's a big factor as to where this goes going forward. My gut says that it is not going to be a NATO guarantee. It's not going to be a U.S. guarantee. It's going to be a matter of which European countries. They are standing up manufacturing. They're building more. They're producing more, 100%. But which of those countries, or any, are going to say we are genuinely going to risk war with Russia to prevent them from going further? And we don't have an answer to that yet.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, wasn't like Russia, not to be like very Ukrainian propaganda, but wasn't like Russia, yeah, they're turning out the vehicles. They talk about production, but the production was not what we think is production. Like the vehicles, they were like, oh no, they got plenty of backup in their tanks, but they're like, they don't work. It's like saying like our graveyards, we're counting that as our, like, oh yeah, of course we have 1,000 tanks. You know, we don't. There's only like 100 of them that work. Yeah, we have a graveyard for 900 of them, but good luck getting them up and running in time. And also, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like that, you know, is it really, they're really doing very well ramping up in Russia? I mean, clearly Ukraine is. Like they are innovating and they are doing very well. So that is being tracked, you know, I don't say 1-to-1, but you know, you can be like, oh yeah, if they're making strides, we know they're making strides. Russia, they talk about, well, their economy, yeah, it didn't affect their economy. I was like, well, that's not what we're hearing. Like it's actually hitting them hard. They are running low on armor. They can't produce enough quick, you know, maybe they are now, but even what they were trying to do before, it's like, they're running out of armor. They're trying to pull old 1970s, 1950s tanks, and they're trying to retrofit museum tanks, and they're just getting absolutely annihilated. So that's what I'm like wondering, like with Russia's production, like, yeah, man, you can keep producing weapons and whatever, but if you guys just keep getting mowed down, it's like obviously that's the waves. If that's the tactic, but you feel at some point it's going to start affecting them. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Over time, there's no doubt. And in terms of sanctions, people like to say the sanctions aren't doing anything. Meanwhile, Russia is demanding the sanctions be lifted. So, like, they're not doing. Why do you want them lifted if they're not doing anything? Yeah. It's probably just not having the impact we thought they would have. But in terms of production, yes, there was a period of time where they were refurbishing tanks and would count those as newly manufactured. And like that's very different. Yeah. To go from scratch to, we pulled this one out of storage and put a new turret on it and called it a day. But I don't think the question right now is about tanks. Like it's not a question of, yes, that is important to a degree, but the reason that the war is relatively stagnant along the front is not due to a lack of tanks from Russia. What Russia needs to continue this war is manpower. They do not have a shortage of manpower. and we are seeing a significant increase in their production and usage of drones. A couple times this month already, we have seen 500, 600, 700, 800 drones fired into Ukraine in a night. So, yeah, the tanks are not getting produced in some rapid quantities, but they sure as hell figured out a way to produce these Shahed drones in mass. 800 in a night? Are you kidding me?
That's very real.
Yeah. And we are going to blink, and it might be before October 1st, we're going to see a night where 1,000 Shahed drones are fired from Russia into Ukraine. So, correct. Their tank production might not be where people think it could be, but their drone production that did not exist when the war began is producing 1,000 munitions a day on or about. That's insane.
Yeah.
And a real problem.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is I think the Ukrainians are starting to reach out and touch the Russians as well. So it's like, I'll say who's good. It's not the first who's gonna, you're playing chicken and who blinks first. It's like, who develops the fastest with the most effective.
Yeah.
And I think those cruise missiles are, in my opinion, I think are going to be the most effective. If you can, obviously they're hitting the cities with Russian cruise missiles, but it doesn't feel like en masse. Like the Shahed drones, obviously it's a lot. Does it have as much punch as a cruise missile? No. But
sometimes though, the Shaheds are huge, man. They're like the size of small cars. Yeah. It's not as big of a warhead as a straight up cruise missile, but it's close.
It's close.
Yeah. Big boom.
Yeah. And that's what's curious too, is like, okay, they are doing that. At what point, like you said, does NATO say get involved? But yeah, what because Poland is feeling it, Germany's feeling it. Like I think a lot of people in the U.S. are like, whatever, they don't care. It's like they're feeling it, and like if Russia starts getting some, I don't know, a little too cozy with the fact that they are hitting Ukraine so hard, what is the incursion? Granted, you still have NATO, they still don't want to mess with it, but it's like you feel that tension clearly. That's happening. Like I said, the only reason Lithuania stands on its own right now is because it's NATO. They would have taken that in a day. So, that's always interesting here because you're covering this constantly. So it's like, what's that?
And the little changes here.
Yeah. What's that look like? So that's always good. And then you say, what's good? Again, another really big war going on is Gaza and Israel. I mean, it's going back and forth, but now they're going back in. That seems like, I don't know, that's like what's your thoughts and opinions on that? Like we fought counterinsurgencies, granted it's a little bit different. It's a very, very centralized strip of land. What do you think is going to come up that?
I think Israel is going to occupy the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future. And that occupation is really going to take form probably in the next few months. Nobody's made any progress in any sort of negotiations. It's just not there. It's hard to say that the Israeli government is prioritizing the return of the hostages at this point. Just be blunt. They continue to push military operations, which is a way to eliminate Hamas. It has not been proven. You cannot at this point say that there is a military solution to getting hostages back. We just haven't seen that done. There's been one successful military operation to rescue hostages alive this entire time. It's really hard to do. So it's not like Israel is not good or not capable. Like that is just such an incredibly complex operation. Doesn't seem to be the way to do it. But we are seeing Operation Gideon's Chariots 2 kicking off, the second phase of that. They're moving into Gaza City right now. And it just looks like long-term occupation is going to be the move.
You think they'll ever just say, we're just going to take this and shift them out? I mean,
like literally move all the Palestinians out?
Yeah. I mean, I know that's a crazy thing to say, but
I don't think it's that crazy of a thing to say.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's not. And I think a lot of people, to other people it is. And to me, it's not. It's one of those really hard, it's one of those you rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, everyone's going to hate you anyways. It's not like you're going to, oh my God, they did such a great job occupying Gaza. Now our opinion has changed of the IDF. You know what I mean? They're fighting the propaganda war. They're fighting all that stuff. But it's also, at the end of the day, this keeps repeating. At some point, again, I think when we're talking about war, we kind of go back into our military mindsets. There's, and there's no concessions for losers. It's the end of the day. Clearly, I think it's also tough for people because they want to separate Palestinians and the Gazans from Hamas, where Hamas, I mean, that's 50% of the population is very supportive of Hamas. Even if you took it, that's generous. That's very generous to say that 50% is like, no, we don't want them. 50% is another, what is it, million and a half?
About 2 million people.
2 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, so you have then a million hardcore supporters. Generationally, the UNWR is having, anti-Zionist, anti-Israel propaganda within their, teaching the next generation. And clearly, like, even if you aren't a fan of Hamas, but Israel's still wiping your city out, that's still not a good thing, even though it's necessary. You're still not going to be a fan of the IDF or even the Israelis at that point. So even the people that aren't Hamas supporters are going to be very hard to convince to be like, yeah, this is a good idea. We'll live in peace between us. And so,
yeah, how many people in Gaza did not support Hamas, but now are so upset at Israel that they
will support
them, or at least hate Israel more,
or tolerate.
And how many people have gone the other direction, where it's enough is enough, get Hamas out of here, this thing needs to stop. I have no idea how many have gone in either direction, if it one outweighs the other. It's been nasty for a while now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said, like, that's the, like I said, I there's what I think, I hate to say it, what needs to be done opposed to what's going to be done. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Like, they're occupying it, okay, but at some point, do you think has there been any rumblings of that
Occupation?
No, not occupation, but full out, like, what would you call it? Wow, just pushing them out,
Ethnic cleansing.
Not ethnic cleansing.
No, to be blunt, like, that's what it is. If you forcibly remove people from a territory, that would fit the definition of ethnic cleansing, and that's why I think there is a move to do that, in a sense of making some of the areas uninhabitable.
Displaced, that was the word, sorry.
Well, but forced displacement.
Forced displacement.
They're, I don't think we should mince words with that. Like, that's a form of ethnic cleansing, and that's where the controversy comes in around this, where you have to look at it and say, why would you want to live there? But Israel has made some of these places uninhabitable, and so where, like, it seems like the only solution is for somebody to say, fine, I'll leave. I think we will probably see some degree of voluntary displacement, where they're going to find some place to relocate these people, and they'll offer it up, and you're going to have a lot of people that'll say,
I'm out.
I'm out. And I think for those people, like, if they get to make that decision, that's what they want to do, good. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of people in the West that'll protest that and say they had no option, they had no choice, and present it maybe as something that it isn't. But it seems like the logical next step. I mean, you've seen pictures of Gaza.
Oh,
You can't have people living there.
No.
Like, even if reconstruction started today, you can't have those people living there. They're going to die in the next few years. Just, dude,
Yeah. Just, in generality. I mean, it's gone. Like,
there's entire portions of the strip they're gone.
Yeah, it's completely gone. It's not even that big. Like, I think people would think it's like, I've never been. It's like I always want to go to Israel. Still want to go, but it would have been nice to see the Gaza Strip before it was, like, leveled. You know what I mean? Because it's like, then you see that for yourself. Like, how big is this? Like, what land mass are we talking about? Or how much do you take, or what would that operation entail? Because you're only seeing it on, videos here and there. You're not seeing it on, whatnot. So it's, like, kind of interesting to, if you go there, you understand how big that thing of land is. All right, so that's your opinion on Israel. Like, thinking, yeah. Any other stuff that you're thinking, like, out there that might explode or anything?
Those are the big ones now, for sure. Those big ones for a while. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, bro. Like, we're thanks for coming on. Like, obviously it was awesome coming out to Nashville and doing the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for the invite.
Obviously, where can people find you? Help grow your channel. I'll get you to 1 million. So
here we go.
Yeah, can I get you to 1 million? So where can people find you? Your obviously TikTok, we were talking about a lot. Instagram, I noticed how much you got on Instagram? Like
200 something.
200,000?
Growing, yeah.
Oh, geez,
it's growing fast.
I don't know when I looked at. I thought I looked at yours. It was like at 10,000.
That might have been like a while ago. At one point I was.
Yeah. Well, obviously at one point you were. Okay, cool. All right. So where can people find you at? Like, on all the channels?
YouTube's best, man. I try to stay pretty active on X. I use X a lot to kind of, like, here's the information I'm finding, and that feeds into a video. But YouTube's best. Most content's going up there. And then, of course, Instagram, TikTok, X, And that's it. The big ones.
Hell yeah, awesome.
Hey, Ethan, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm glad we did this. I'm pumped. So thanks for coming on, and fucking, it was awesome, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you.